Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran and I'm here with Andrew Velez, Joel Dehls, and this is now episode 165. In this episode, we are going to debate whether or not this is a make or break year for Tua Tagovailoa, Matt Ryan getting traded to the Colts, predicting Baker Mayfield's next team, and much more. A quick Patreon shout out to G Boog, Kobe, Jeremiah, Dylan, Afosa, Mason, Rico the One, Gentile Drew, Cade MVP, Mark, SP Vorzi Shot, Jordan, Evan, Dylan, Joel is the GOAT, Mayo, Andre, Matthew, Peter, Daniel, Biggie Boston Boy, Ben, Mickey, William, Tyler, Ruthless Rooster, Sensei Stevie, Joel B, S.A. Crimes, Kevin S, Eagle Dollar, Tizzy, Corey, Get Funkoed, Dylan, Playboy, Orlando, Big Chuck, Michael, Greg, Cole, Liam, T. Grove, Tua Sucks on Ka, Ryan, Epic Linkiness, Travis Ball, Aaron Moran is Black Ace, Anthony, BJ, PJs, Langston, Jazzy Juice, Johannes, Ruben, Dave, Muffins, John, Sean, Burner Hoops, Court Cousins, P. Dot, Hikari, Mateen, and Jay Aqua.
Good old Jay Aqua. Let's get into it.
What a day.
Crazy day in sports history today.
Day.
Tyreek Hill could have been a Jet today. But
roller coaster of emotions.
It wasn't meant to be. It wasn't written in the stars. Written in the stars. A million miles away.
Tiny Tempa, right? Yo, shout out to him.
I'm on my way. Man, so today has been a rough day for me. You guys know why? Because my foot is in absolute pain. It's in agony. But I had to do the show because Jordan played through the flu.
It's like flu game.
Giannis played through hyperextended knee, which he could have got severely hurt from. So
came here after a broken wrist.
I can podcast. Exactly. You
so.
Came here after you broke your wrist. And
Riv said, yo, bro, you can't go to the doctor another day? It's like, I guess I can. Sure. The day after I break my wrist, sure. I could champion through it one more day. That was crazy. That was hilarious. In hindsight, it's still funny as sin, but
Drew broke his wrist. And we're like, damn, we're not going to record today. Then Riv's like, bro, you can't go another day.
Unbelievable.
That's crazy.
So selfish of him. How selfless I was.
Team player.
You got to know.
Yeah, my foot is absolutely in pain, though. I don't know how it happened, but it happened, and yeah.
We were talking about it, bro. Might have the Derrick
serious.
Henry injury. Yeah. The Jones fracture.
I hope it's not that.
I hope it's not that either, man.
You know what I'm going to do, and I realized this. I was like, maybe playing basketball right now for me is not the best idea because on how much impact I put on my foot, maybe I should just start off doing cardio, like going on a bike or something.
I think it's your shoes?
I think it is also because the shoes were some Damian Lillard's. They're not the most comfortable.
Interesting.
And I did feel like whenever I walked on them, it was a bit rough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That could be it.
Yeah, I'm a Hyperdunks guy. It's always been a Hyperdunks guy.
I haven't used Hyperdunks since high school.
Yeah, that's the last time I used them. Whenever I use Hyperdunks, I feel agile. I feel quicker than normal. I just feel like a different person with Hyperdunks on.
Sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
They're great shoes.
We're going to get right into this show because I know that we have a lot to talk about. And a big-time move happened. Unfortunately, it was a big-time move within our division, the AFC East. Me and Joel, we're Jets fans. Zach Wilson jersey right behind us. The Miami Dolphins have made some big-time moves. They signed Teron Armstead. They signed Connor Williams, Cedric Wilson, Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, Alec Ingold. And then today, the cherry on top, they traded for Tyreek Hill and made him the highest paid receiver in the NFL. So I'm going to start with you, Drew, because you're the person who represents the Miami Dolphins here.
Fin fam.
We know how great of a player Tyreek Hill is. We know how good of a player Teron Armstead is. Given what the Dolphins did this offseason, is this a make or break year for Tua?
I feel like that question's pretty obvious. We know that answer. Of course, the answer is yes. But let's not get into that. Let's get into more pressing matters. The Miami Dolphins and the amazing moves that they've made over these past 2 days. Bringing in Teron Armstead, we spoke about it all off season long. Miami and Teron just made sense. Miami had a ton of cap space. Teron was the best available tackle that could be signed this free agent period. It was written in the stars. The only other team that made some kind of sense was the Bengals, but they already had their left tackle in Williams. But Teron Armstead comes to Miami. That's super exciting. That's already a W. But we were speaking before the preseason. We spoke on the way to the on the car ride here. We were always talking about Teron Armstead and maybe Chris Godwin with the money that they have. I don't think ever in our wildest dreams we imagined Tyreek Hill and Teron Armstead joining the Miami Dolphins. This was by far best case scenario. So now, yes, am I with you guys? Is this a make or break season for Tua? Sure. Am I concerned or do I have any type of worry that he's going to be successful? Absolutely not. This was absolutely the perfect offseason for the Miami Dolphins. Last season, I was begging and pleading, put this guy in a way better situation, and he will show you that he is worth that number 5 pick that you guys used on him. You guys had the 32nd worst pass block in the NFL. You had minimal weapons outside of Jalen Waddle. I'll give respect to Devontae Parker. He doesn't have much separation, unfortunately. And the running back situation was a mess. Gaskin was mediocre at best. You had Duke Johnson, who came in towards the end of the season, was very effective, but Duke Johnson at this point is not someone that you hoot and holler about. Mike Gesicki was a solid option at the tight end position, but even still, he was inconsistent at times. Now, you bring in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle, whose game is basically mirrored after Tyreek Hill's, which is absolutely fantastic to have 2 of those types of wide receivers with Mike McDaniel as your head coach. This offense is going to be electric. If you thought Deebo Samuel was exciting last season, imagine 2 Deebo Samuels. Let's be real. That's exactly the type of situation that's going on in Miami right now. And now you have Connor Williams, Teron Armstead. You got to give respect to Hunt, who was their only solid lineman last season. And now potential J.C. Treader could potentially come to Miami as well. That's potential right now. We don't know, but they still have some money to spend.
Might as well, right? You haven't got
as
enough.
long as Jesse Davis is not on this line next season, I don't have a complaint.
He won't be.
I pray that you're right, man, because he is abysmal. He is not good at whatsoever.
But I'm looking at the Dolphins have like the 4th round now too.
But and that's fine. The trade,
yes.
We look at it from both sides. If I'm the Dolphins, I do that trade 10 times out of 10. And you guys, I'm sure, are going to speak about it. But if I was the Jets, I would have offered the number 10 pick for Tyreek Hill to force Kansas City to basically say, we can't turn this deal down. Tyreek Hill is that explosive of a player. There's been one season where he's been under 1,000 yards, and that was because he was hurt.
Injured.
He was out due to injury, excuse me. I'm looking at the Dolphins, and now you have 2 X-Factor weapons to surround Tua with. You have Cedric Wilson, who's going to be, you can play him on the outside, you can play him on the inside, doesn't matter. But now you have one of the greatest slot options in Tyreek Hill in the entire NFL. You give him this huge contract, 4 years, $120 million, and I'm happy with it. I love to see wide receiver options in our NFL getting these contracts, because when you impact the game as much as you do, you deserve that money that quarterbacks get. There are some receivers that mean more to their team than some quarterbacks, and I'm fine with them getting their money. But Tua, I have no worries. My expectations are through the roof. I'm looking for a Pro Bowl season out of him. There's no excuse. Whatever you guys are going to say, all this pressure that you're going to put on Tua, I 100% agree. But I have no doubts that he's going to live up to that hype. I'm looking at 3,800 yards. I'm looking at 25 to 30 touchdowns this season. I want to see them really contend for this AFC East division. Their defense last year was the bright point of that 8-game win streak towards the end of the year. Tua and that offense definitely managed their way through games, but they still were good enough to get past those games and get some wins. Now this season, you have a revamped offensive line. You have a revamped offensive game plan. You have 2 great wide receiver options. You have a solid run game now with Chase Edmonds being one of the better Chase Edmonds being one of the best pass catchers, my wording's all jumbled there. And then Raheem Mostert, who is arguably the fastest running back in the league still. You have speed on all aspects of this offense with Mike McDaniel, who is just absolutely brilliant when it comes to drawing up game plans for players of these skills assets. it's going to be a very exciting season for Miami this year. And the sky's the limit for them. I'm not saying Super Bowl, but I'm telling you, the division is definitely in question. We saw the Patriots really contend this year for that division with the Bills, and the Bills were one of the better teams in the AFC conference for sure. But the division's not signed and sealed with the Bills. I'm looking at the Bills, and what did they do really? Lost Cole Beasley, added Von Miller, who was great last season with the Rams for sure. But
Crowder.
And Jamison Crowder. We can't forget Jamison Crowder. Am I really looking at the Bills and saying it's signed and sealed, especially the way that it wasn't a guaranteed runaway last year with New England being a team that was really a team that no one looked at and respected to really contend for that? Why can't the Dolphins, with the talent that they have on their roster, really contend?
You said something that is true. This was the perfect offseason for Miami Dolphins fans. They should be ecstatic. I hit the clap button for Dolphins fans. You should be ecstatic.
Throw them up, boys. Throw up the fins.
You're not catching me dead doing that.
With that being said, let's get into the analysis of this. I like that you mentioned some of the names that you mentioned. Raheem Mostert, can he stay healthy? Yeah, I know he's a really fast running back.
You're 100%
he has to stay healthy.
I agree. That's
number one. I like all of the moves they made in free agency. I think they're going to be a run-first offense. We know that's what Mike McDaniel likes to do. There's this concern on Twitter, at least from what I've seen, that, Tua can't throw the ball down the field. He's not going to be able to hit Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
I'm not going to lie. I've seen a lot of negative Tua tweets today.
What else is new? That's every day.
I don't think Tua has a great arm. And if anybody who watches the NFL and actually analyzes the game knows that he has an average NFL arm. That's
average in what sense?
Without debate.
Okay, if we're talking arm strength, that's
not
fine,
even a debate. With that being said, I don't think this offense is going to ask Tua to make the throws that Josh Allen makes in Buffalo or Pat Mahomes makes in KC. I think it's going to be an offense similar to what we saw last year. A lot of screens, RPOs, a lot of stuff off of play action. I think play action is going to be more incorporated this season. And all Tua has to do is give the ball to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill in space, in stride, because they can take a 5-yard slant to the house on any given play. You don't have to throw the ball 60 yards to maximize Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle just set the record for most receptions in a season, not being the best deep threat in the NFL. It was a lot of short stuff.
All I'm going to say is we've seen Tua throw the ball 50, 55 yards down the field on the fly. Let's give him that respect that he can still do that.
Because of that, that's why I don't think that's that big of a worry to me. The Dolphins went 8-9 last year. Let's be honest. It's because of the cupcake schedule they had that they went on this win streak, on this fantastic win streak.
Did they go 8-9 or 9-8?
They went 8-9. Or they went 9-8. It's one of those. It probably is 9-8. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 9-8. They had a cupcake schedule in the second half of the season that allowed them to finish with that record. They were 16th against the pass last year. They were 18th against the run. And what did they do defensively that was a big-time move this offseason? They just worked on the offense. Byron Jones, I don't know why people still look at him like Cowboys Byron Jones. He is not. He's a mediocre corner.
He's never been what he was on the Cowboys with the Dolphins. He's not a great or elite cornerback. Xavier Howard, he is definitely great. He's elite. But Byron Jones is just a whatever guy. He doesn't create any turnovers. He doesn't lock the opposing receivers down. He's just a whatever guy, in my opinion. I think defensively they're going to have their struggles because you're going from Brian Flores to, I'm not even sure who their defense coordinator is right now, but I'm pretty sure he won't be Brian Flores. Brian Flores was a big reason why that defense overachieved last season. Kevin Steele
is their current defense coordinator.
Correct.
Niners guy? I'm guessing.
He used to coach the Hurricanes. Miami.
Even though I've said before, Tua Tagovailoa is Jimmy Garoppolo, and I still believe in that wholeheartedly, I think he's going to have a great year. And average quarterbacks can have great years. Baker Mayfield had a great year. Jimmy Garoppolo had a great year in 2019. Ryan Tannehill had 2 great years in 2019 and in 2020, and I think most people would categorize him as an average quarterback. Average quarterbacks can have great years. I disagree with what you said when you said you surround Tua and now he's going to show he was worthy of the 5th overall pick.
For sure.
There is nothing Tua can never do.
That's wrong.
That's going to make him worthy of that 5th overall pick.
Incorrect.
Because they took him over Justin Herbert.
That's
so even still, the 6th overall pick, top 5 pick, I'm telling you, regardless of that fact.
And if you're banking,
not over Herbert, bro.
Not fine. Like, it's Herbert. Like,
yes, I understand.
And if you're banking on this surplus of weapons to finally show you what Tua can do, you're evaluating the position wrong. Justin Herbert as rookie had the worst offensive line in the league.
Still had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams.
Okay, but the worst offensive line in the league.
Keenan Allen, Mike Williams.
Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, Tua had that last year.
And Mike Gesicki. And Mike Gesicki. Tua was hurt also.
So he had weapons too. Justin Herbert
Tua won more than Herbert did.
Justin Herbert set records as a rookie with the worst offensive line in football.
It was amazing.
You don't have to have the most talent around you for you to properly evaluate a quarterback. I think we all know Tua's going to be average. But right now,
yeah, you can't say we all with this guy.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Come on.
I think he'll have a big time year. But let's look at this right here. Tua Tagovailoa last year.
Just got to bring up the stats from last year, even though we're looking forward to the 2022-2023 season.
His numbers weren't terrible last
year. I'm just curious.
Narratives. I already know where this is going.
Can I state my piece?
Let's hear it, man.
Last year, on deep passes, he completed 44.3% of his passes,
third highest,
which is third best in the NFL. Mahomes last year was 5th. He had the 5th shortest average pass distance in the NFL. Tua was 4th. That's not a big drop-off. And Patrick Mahomes ranked 7th in the NFL with 76 pass attempts of 20-plus yards, 3.8 per game. But Tua ranked 30th with 29, 2.2 per game. There's a big difference there, there's definitely going to be a difference in scheme. But Tyreek Hill is one of those guys who I think he's not reliant on scheme. He can be in multiple ones and have success. So I think in the scheme with Mike McDaniel, he'll have success. There's no doubt about it. But it's a make or break year for Tua Tagovailoa. It's as simple as that. And I'll be honest, even if he has a big time year this season, I still might not be all the way sold on Tua.
I believe you. Just like you're not sold on Matthew Stafford. It's like,
I'm sold on Matthew Stafford. I never said I'm not sold on him. I know he's a great quarterback.
One more year. Can I see one more year?
This is also true.
But I said to trust in the playoffs. That's different.
Bro,
I'm talking about I'm just talking about playing the quarterback position.
So
if he's a great quarterback.
Now let me ask you: if Tua throws for over 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, you're out. You're still verdict's not out.
I think next year he will throw for 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 25 to 28 touchdowns.
Okay, that's around.
I think that's what he's going to do.
My range was 38, 25 to 30. 38 in the sense of 3,800.
But that's a very Jimmy Garoppolo stat line.
He's in his 3rd year. We still could see him. Listen, he could excel that for sure.
But all the excuses.
If I say 4,500, you guys are looking at me cross-eyed.
All the excuses have now been thrown out for Tua Tagovailoa.
For sure.
I don't want to hear, he's under the worst offensive line. Oh, Brian Flores is a coach. Oh, that's why he sucks. No, all the excuses are thrown out the window. And you're talking about him overthrowing the Bills?
The Dolphins overthrowing the Bills.
The 2 biggest games of his career versus the Bills in Week 17, he choked. Last year versus the Titans, he choked.
That wasn't his fault. Rookie year was one of the worst games I've ever seen.
The 2 biggest games of Tua's career in the NFL, he's choked.
Nathan Peterman game.
Defense let up 34 points.
He threw, 4 interceptions?
Oh, we're talking about the Bills game? Oh, yeah. It was bad. It was bad.
Ugly.
It was bad.
It was ugly.
Another bad weather game.
This guy in inclement weather.
Not the best.
He could be better for sure.
But to finish my piece,
you spoke well.
There's no excuses. There's no excuses for Tua this season.
Agreed.
I think he'll have a great year, and Dolphins fans should be excited about this. But I'd pump the brakes on overtaking the Bills and Josh Allen. Do you know who Josh Allen is?
I'm not the guy who almost let Mac Jones take the division from him last year.
He didn't, though.
He almost did, is what I'm saying. The door's there.
And then they smoked them in the playoffs.
For sure. But to say it's signed and sealed, I can't agree with.
Is anything signed and sealed outside like the Bucs win the NFC South?
Listen, I'm not totally disagreeing with you, but this Bills team is supposed to be the #1 team projected for this upcoming season. It's not signed and sealed that they're even going to win their division.
They just got Von Miller.
which is
You
great for them.
you undersold that sign.
So are you going into
What are you
next season
talking
thinking
about?
that
I'm
Miami? Who's your? I mean, it's very early, but just
super early right
enlighten me.
now.
Entertain me. Super early. I
It
know.
is
I know
not
who you want to take.
It's not crazy to say that the Dolphins win the division. It's not crazy.
It's not nuts, but it's not.
All right, I don't want to be safe. The safe thing is to say the Bills.
Of course. Are you a safe guy?
You know
You
what?
like to live on the edge.
You're right. And for that reason,
Taking Miami.
I'm taking the Bills.
Oh, do me for a
Taking
loop
the
there.
Bills. I'm taking the Bills. I have to be realistic. Right now in this scenario, the defense for the Bills is still great, regardless of whether we look at it in the sense of they played an elite offense in the postseason. They let up a ton of points, a ton of yards.
Got a first-time
They're still
coach with
solid
McDaniel too.
For sure. For sure.
First-time coordinators.
You still have to temper expectations right now, but once I see it, I'm a big first week, second week type of individual.
Rams.
If I see something come crazy and it really is eye-popping to me, I switch just like that. But right now, as preseason goes, you still got to give the edge to the Bills.
I just didn't like your wording because you were like the Bills didn't do much. Oh, they signed Von Miller. Like that
Miami
is
just made
much.
the most
They're
moves.
essentially the same team plus Von Miller, which you have to give his respect. He's a Hall of Famer, All-Pro, All-NFL. He is that great of a player for sure. He's getting older. You still have to acknowledge that. He's getting his money now, which who knows? He has 2 rings. What else does he have to prove? He could retire tomorrow and gets inducted into Canton 5 years later.
Von Miller doesn't seem like that type of guy.
I agree with that for sure.
It's just funny because I know if he would have went to
100%,
Denver,
bro,
this
100%.
energy would have been different.
Maybe,
The
but
narrative, come
Randy
on.
Gregory's now on my squad, and I'm not too
If
upset.
Von Miller was on the team, we have an
We
elite
saved
pass
$50 million.
rusher.
We saved $50 million. How much was Von Miller's contract? 6 years, 120.
But a lot of that money's
I know.
fake.
I'm just
lot of it's
contract wise.
And maybe you can say the Bills didn't do much, but they didn't have to. They're
Okay.
already a great. They
I
were
agree.
just a piece away from getting over the hump.
But they didn't even make it to the conference championship. That's what I'm looking
They
at.
ran into the Chiefs the second round.
who lost to the team that went to the Super Bowl.
Okay, the Chiefs gone to 4 straight AFC chips, 2
For
Super
sure,
Bowls.
for sure.
What-
Listen, the Chiefs
we're
are
not taking
great,
anything
but they
away
lost to
from
the
Give your
Bengals,
take
who are
on
an
Tua,
inferior
Joel.
team.
Sure. Oh God, it was a roller coaster of emotions for me. Asshole. The news broke that Tyreek Hill was rumored to get traded. It was actually, we have in my company an all hands meeting once a month, and it's the entire company. There's like 80 people, and the news broke during this meeting, and my jaw just drops. And I like messaged the chat with me and like my small team. I was like, did anyone see? Like my jaw just dropped because I looked like a fool while someone was presenting. But the news broke that the Jets were one of the 2 finalists in the teams, and I went through a roller coaster of emotions because at first I'm thinking, who could put together the best package? And I'm looking at what the Jets can offer, what the Dolphins can offer, and it's no competition. The Jets have
Easily
what's likely going to be the 10th pick in my mind that they're going to give up possibly a second-round pick. And then an hour or so later comes out that it's really just up to Tyreek Hill and what he wants to do and his decision. And that's when I got a little worried because, while we all think the Jets are going in the right direction, I still think the NFL and people around the league view them as a franchise that hasn't won, and they haven't in the last 10 years or so. So also being in Miami compared to New York, I understand why Tyreek would want to go in the city of Miami instead of New York. McDaniel being an offensive guy.
And real quick, I really didn't even want to bring this up, but I just am thinking about it now, and all the times I've had to sit in this chair and hear all this Tua slander from you, surprisingly. We usually see eye to eye, but this is the one thing we really disagree on. You and I, is almost every single show we disagree on something. But to sit here in this chair and hear this Tua slander constantly, this guy's mediocre, Jimmy G ceiling,
average.
and for Tyreek Hill to essentially say,
You think he did it?
I'm choosing Tua Tagovailoa
I think you're
over
on crack.
Zach Wilson.
I think you're on crack.
How would that feel as Jets fans?
I think
Tua,
it's Miami. I think it's an
anti-supporters.
offensive head coach. I think it's no state income tax.
I think it's whatever that helps you sleep at night is what you're going to put in your mind.
because I'm
right
not
now.
worried.
I
Zach's
also
going to be more
think-
impressive next year than Tua.
I hope you're right.
I also think it's.
But I'm going to tell you, I'm optimistic that Tua has the better season.
We know the talent that Zach Wilson has, but at the same time,
And so do I.
Tyreek Hill is the same guy who thought Patrick Mahomes was going to be ass in practice.
And yeah, say what you want. Like
He doesn't know how to evaluate quarterbacks.
Tyreek Hill also said, "I'll play with Tua over Mahomes."
No, he said I'll take the bag over Mahomes to a degree.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, sure, he said Tua over Zach, but he basically said, "I'm taking Tua over Mahomes as well." And I don't think that's exactly
I understand
how
what you're saying there.
That doesn't
And
calculate.
that's a great counter. However, the Chiefs weren't giving him $30 million, and on top of it, the Jets and the Dolphins both were going to give him that money.
Yeah.
So regardless of that fact, let's take Mahomes out of it because that's not the conversation we're going to have. We know that. Tyreek Hill, is obviously understanding the fact that Mahomes is still the best quarterback out of all three of them. However, one team was not giving him $30 million, and one team didn't have Tua. So that's really what it came down to.
I mean, listen, I think he chose Miami because there's no state income tax.
No, for sure.
And because he'd rather live in Miami than New Jersey.
Whatever allows you to put your head on that pillow and comfortably go to bed.
The Jets are the New York Jets, but they're in New Jersey. They practice in Florham Park. They play in MetLife in East Rutherford. This is New Jersey. So it's him choosing Miami over New Jersey.
I don't think it's a Zach, because I think, or any of us question who has more talent, Zach or Tua? Do you think Tua is more talent? No. Do you think
Why are you
Tua
putting
is
me
more?
under this microscope,
I'm asking you. Do you think
man?
Tua is more?
You're
the one who brought up Zach versus Tua.
We don't need to talk about that.
Tyreek chose Tua over Zach. That's what I'm saying to y'all.
He didn't, though.
As you guys who were definitely looking forward to Tyreek joining your guys' roster, and for him to come out and say it's basically all on Tyreek, wherever he wants to go is where he's gonna end up going over to play football.
He made his mind.
And for him to go to Miami.
I understand you're trying to be funny, but
I'm not. I'm being honest.
Being objective.
I'm being honest.
You don't even believe that yourself. Don't fall into his trap. Just keep going what you were saying. Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. I'm just being truthful.
I know. Listen, you believe it, and whatever you believe, I want you to stay true to yourself, and
Thanks,
I respect
man.
that. So once the news broke, I was I got like no work done today, bro. I'll be honest, because from like 11 to 1, it was just refreshing Twitter, and then from like 1 the rest of the day, I'm depressed, bro. Like I am sick to my stomach. I'm Tyreek Hill's #1 hater, bro. Like my day was ruined. I'll be honest, because I'm thinking we get Tyreek Hill, this whole offense is unlocked. We have Zach with the best deep threat in the NFL, one of the best deep threats we've ever seen in league history, the fastest guy arguably in league history, with the Elijah Moores and Corey Davises, and the offense just completely opens up, and instead he goes and chooses Miami. I think the most interesting part of all of this is how McDaniel is going to run this offense going forward, because last season it was a lot of RPOs, and I do agree, while I agree that he's still going to be a run-first play caller. You know, that's what he ran in San Francisco under the Shanahan tree. It's still he's going to do. You mentioned it. Tua had the 29th best or whatever, ranked 29th in average up the target, just about 7 yards. But Jimmy G, who had these weapons with the Debo's, Kittle, Ayuk, he ranked 23rd in ADOT. So it's not like McDaniel and Shanahan's offense is predicated behind pushing the ball downfield, right? And I don't think that's exactly Tua's strength. You mentioned the 20-plus yard throws, and while I agree that Tua doesn't have the greatest arm strength, 20 to 30 yards to 40 yards, that's a throw that most NFL quarterbacks, including Tua, can make. I think it's most of the off-balance, off-script throws that I have the bigger problem with. I think Tua in a clean pocket, he's going to be able to throw the ball 25 yards downfield. If he couldn't, he wouldn't be a starter.
Off-platform, he can't, though.
Yes, I agree. The type of throws that we've seen, the Zach Wilson's making, the Mahomes, not to put Zach in that category. But one thing is interesting in terms of his 20-plus passes, because while he was the third highest in completion percentage, he was also the third highest in turnover worthy play percentage. So he did make these throws down the field, but a lot of these throws were also could have been interceptions and could have been turned over by the defense. So while he has the ability to be accurate, he still had plenty of times where the ball could have been intercepted, or it was tipped by a defender into one of their teammates' hands or whatever it might be. So I think this is great for Miami. I mean, there's no way around it. You got Tyreek Hill, arguably a top 3-5 receiver in football, someone that's going to be able to unlock the offense. You basically have two guys on any given play that could take a 10-yard screen, a 10-yard slant, whatever, to the house. And that's going to unlock the offense. Defenses, we've seen how they've played the Chiefs in the last few years. Although Mahomes is more of a threat to move the ball downfield, you still have to respect both of these guys' speed. In terms of the Armstead signing, I love that as well. Armstead has dealt with injuries over the last few years. He only played 8 games this past season, but when he's healthy, he's on the field. He's the second best left tackle in football. He's a beast. We talked about last week that I thought Miami was a loser the first 2 days because they had all this money, all this draft capital. They didn't make any moves. But in these last 2 days, getting Teron Armstead, getting Tyreek Hill, now you have an offensive line that's finally getting built, and you have Cedric Wilson now. He's your number 3 receiver with Devontae Parker. Now your wide receiver room is complete. You have Gesicki still there at tight end. So there's no excuses for Tua. And I just want to quickly talk about the Chiefs as well, because I think it's obvious that Miami's the winner here. The Chiefs have holes on their team, right? I think we all agree edge is probably their biggest need. Their edge is abysmal. They could use another corner, and now they need wide receivers. And when I look at how the NFL has been going over these last few years, wide receivers are probably the second most important position in football behind quarterback. And it makes no sense to me that you can't figure out another way to keep Tyreek Hill on your team. We see teams like the Rams who have being able to bring in Allen Robinson, trade Robert Woods, and still are now looking at Bobby Wagner after giving Matthew Stafford this ridiculous $40 million per year contract, a huge number, and they're still able to make everything work. The Rams seem to be playing with salary cap turned off, but I would have done everything in my power to make sure that Tyreek Hill is a Kansas City Chief until he's not Tyreek Hill anymore. And they were able to get off him. They got 5 draft picks. And, KC's a great team in terms of being able to draft, be able to find talent, bring them in, develop them. So I don't think this front office, this ownership, got all these picks. They're going to be bringing in wide receivers. They're not going into next season with Mecole Hardman and Juju being the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. They have picks 29, pick 30. They have 2 picks in the first, second, and third round. So if they want to trade up and get a Jameson Williams, Treylon Burks, someone that has speed, is able to, not replace Tyreek Hill's role, but eventually down the line have that deep threat ability with the Jujus, I think that's what they're going to do, because in no world can they see what the rest of the NFL is doing and say we're comfortable having Juju, Mecole Hardman, and Josh Gordon being our starting 3 wide receivers going into next season.
I think it's unfair to make that comparison to the Rams. Do you think the Rams would have paid Cooper Kupp $30 million? He's currently getting paid $15.
That's fair. But, they paid Allen Robinson $15 million. They paid Stafford $40 million.
You have to pay the quarterback, though.
Yeah.
You have to pay the quarterback whatever he wants to get.
Do you think when
I'm not paying a receiver $30 million a year, bro.
Why not?
Because I'm not. I feel like that's too much money allocated into a receiver.
We were on board getting. That's what the Jets would have gave Tyreek Hill. You would have,
because we have a quarterback on a rookie contract. Right now, the Chiefs have Mahomes making $50 million a year. His contract's going to kick in sooner rather than later. The Chiefs are one of the better drafting teams in the NFL. They drafted the best center in football in the second round last season. They also drafted Nick Bolton, who was one of the better linebackers. They drafted one of the best guards in Trey Smith in the 6th round. They know how to draft. And now they have over $20 million in cap space to go sign a premier free agent. Maybe a Stephon Gilmore goes there.
The skill positions they've been lacking recently.
Okay.
They missed on Clyde. They missed on McCole. They were both first-round picks.
McCole was a third-round pick.
Third round. Sorry, Clyde was first round.
Yeah, but Clyde is more of a scheme fit. And I don't like the way you guys talk about Clyde like he's some bum. He's not.
He was a first-round pick. He was taking over JT, Swift, Dobbins, a lot of guys that are better than him.
Yeah, you're right. But that doesn't mean he's a bad player.
He got outperformed last season by Darrell Williams.
If you're a first-round pick at the running back position, you should be a top 10 guy. At the running back position, you should be top 10.
I feel like they drafted him more based off scheme fit. But
has there been a running back drafted in the first round that hadn't reached that top 10? Even Melvin Gordon was.
Rashad Penny.
That's one of the only ones. Sony Michel.
Towards the end of Fournette's time in the Jags, maybe.
But he was a top 10. He had a time where he was a top 10 running back.
What I'm saying is that the Chiefs now have cap space. They have a plethora of picks.
They do.
They now can build this roster because the defense is clearly, they have some holes there.
Yes.
So now they can fill out the roster defensively, have an elite defense. And Juju, if he's your number 1 and you have somebody who's similar to him, not better, but similar to him, with Travis Kelce, the offense can still move. They'll still be able to move.
I'm praying this is Josh Gordon's opportunity. I'm praying. I really am. But, all right, last thing I'll say on this Zach Wilson-Tua conversation. Tua had better numbers than Zach last season.
Well, no doubt. He's a rookie.
Let's be real. Last season, sure, Tua had playing
time. And also, last 5 games of Zach was a lot different than the first.
He was good.
5-6 weeks before he got hurt.
He was good. Did he throw for 300 yards in any of those games?
He threw right under 200.
He threw for 297 against the Titans.
And he had a couple of hundred, just under 200 yards. Nothing like
he had a great game against Tampa Bay.
For sure. He had a really good game against Tampa Bay.
No, he had a great game against Tampa Bay.
You guys ended up losing that game, but he definitely performed well. I'm going to tell you this.
That's what Braxton Barrett said.
Talent-wise, I think that Zach can do some incredible things, yes. But I think in terms of, this is a similar conversation of what we had in the basketball episode where we talked about Deshaun. I just think that Tua, where, yes, he's not as mobile as Zach, I feel like I can trust Tua to run my offense. Where I feel like Zach can get a little bit ahead of himself, even though the last 5 games he definitely showed that he was composed.
No interceptions.
He was really, really good, especially for a rookie season, to come in and really hone in on his skills to take that leap, whether it was late into the season or not. But to do it in your rookie season was impressive. Nevertheless, I feel like I still would lean Tua in terms of running my offense.
He's more of a game manager
to a degree, but also in the sense of ball placement. In terms of I still trust Tua's deep ball. I'm not saying that Zach Wilson's arm isn't stronger than his, but you can still have great arm talent without having the strongest arm. And Tua has that.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't give one damn about his rookie season. I don't care about his rookie season.
Oh, listen, I think he's going to be good, really good, damn good. But I still think Tua is getting overlooked because he's been put in a terrible situation, as Zach was. Zach was put in a bad situation last year. His offensive line was solid.
The issue
but
that
everything around was questionable.
Yeah, and we had a ton of injuries.
Tua, the only horrible situation was his second year. As a rookie, wasn't put in a horrible situation.
He just dealt with the Fitzpatrick,
That too, and let's be real, the weapons really weren't there either. It was the same team minus Waddle.
The weapons were bad.
Yeah, but you still had Devontae Parker, who was better than any receiver on the Jets.
Right now, sure, but again, we have to. Devontae Parker's separation
that was coming after Devontae Parker's breakout year.
That was
Tua averaged 181 yards.
I'm pretty sure.
Tua averaged 181 yards per game.
That previous year,
maybe. Say that one more time.
Tua averaged 181 yards passing per game in his rookie season.
We're going to be, at least I still think that at the end of next season, we're still going to be looking at Tua in Miami's offense. I think we're still going to be looking at Tua like they could upgrade at quarterback.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Drew. Tua has these plethora of weapons. You're one of the biggest Tua fans. We posted a TikTok one time about him being accurate, and you put him over a lot of names. So, based off the Dolphins getting Tyreek Hill, getting all these weapons this offseason, where is he going to rank after this season?
He could be in that 11 to 15 range for sure.
Will he be better than Kirk Cousins?
The window's open, for sure.
Will he be better than Matt Ryan?
Yes.
Derek Carr.
Probably not. Derek Carr is in a great situation right now.
Because Derek Carr is probably around like 10, 11 right now.
You think Matt Ryan, he'll be better than him easily?
Yeah.
Next year?
Easily?
I'm telling you right now, Matt. We're going to talk about it in a few. Matt Ryan is getting put in a similar situation that Carson Wentz was, where he does not have a number 2 option. But
and Carson Wentz threw for 27 touchdowns.
And the difference is Matt Ryan's a little bit smarter, which is why I think that, yes, he will be a better fit for them, but I don't necessarily think that it's going to translate to them taking that next step.
I still think most people, at least, I still think Tua is going to be looked at as a limited quarterback because even in Jimmy's G.
Why, though?
Because look at Jimmy's G here in 2019 when he went to the Super Bowl and he had 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns.
I don't disagree with what you're
saying.
People
still thought that he held them back.
But Jimmy doesn't have the accuracy that Tua does.
He doesn't. He's one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the middle.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but I'm saying in terms
that
of
year
Tua,
he had a 69% completion percentage. That's better than Tua's.
But what is it, by 2%, 67%?
I mean, 69%, that's like top of the league good.
Now, hold on.
Tua was right
not
there
only
too.
not only that, it's better, and he wasn't throwing the short passes Tua was throwing. Tua was throwing screens.
Again, and he's
all
had the
time.
greatest offensive line in the NFL almost every single year he's been in the league.
Garoppolo.
Correct.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, because even with the good line and the weapons, we still look at Jimmy G as someone we're going to upgrade. And now it's the same thing for Tua. Tua has the line and he has the weapons, but I still think we're going to be looking at him like, we could upgrade. We could get better here. And the Dolphins have 2 first-round picks in 2023. They could have those 2 first-round picks and Tua upgrade at quarterback.
All right, listen, if Tua is everything you guys think that he might be next season, then you're right.
Because I think Tua could put up very similar to this 2019 Jimmy G season, 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns. That's basically what you just said, around that range.
I mean, being objective,
if they upgrade. It depends on the upgrade for sure. However, I don't think that you're going to need to do that, especially him on a rookie contract. If he wins you the division this season, if he throws for the 4,000 yards, if he limits the turnovers, why are we thinking about moving on when we still have this guy on minimum money? When we're giving
because the money's coming up soon.
Hold up.
This is year 3, and then you have to come up on the 5th-year option, which isn't exactly cheap. It's cheaper than franchise quarterback.
Hold on.
I don't think
you're still going to accept it.
4,000 yards is a lot of fucking yards, bro.
It is. I'm saying 38 to 4,000 is in the realm of possibility.
Garoppolo had 39.78 that year.
Let's just.
And he had
I'm going to name.
He had 26 this season. He had 2,600, missing 4 games.
Okay, so that about 3,600. If you say it's around 200 a game.
So now you add Tyreek Hill, you give him an offensive line, you add Cedric Wilson, you add Chase Edmonds, you add Raheem Mostert, who is also a receiving threat. We can't forget that. It's irrational of me to want to add 200 to 400 more yards. It shouldn't be.
These are the quarterbacks that threw for 4,000 yards this past season. Brady, Herbert, Stafford, Mahomes, Carr, Burrow, Dak, Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers.
Is that like 8 names?
Mm-hmm.
Give or take. That's an elite group.
But I
for
don't
sure.
know how you can look at Tua objectively and not say he's a limited quarterback. He is a limited quarterback.
Why? Because he's a pocket passer?
No.
Just
it's
look at the
he's
quarterbacks that aren't limited.
Tua's not, in terms of mobility, it's below average
Yes.
in the NFL.
I guess.
In terms of
His
arm
throw on the
strength,
run
it's
is not great.
average.
Say that one
In
time.
terms of his arm strength, it's average. His accuracy is the best trait about him.
And say what you want. Him in inclement weather is an issue.
It's
And
an
when
issue,
you get in the
sure.
playoffs and those cold games, if it's snowing, raining, whatever, that's a huge issue for Tua.
He's a
Hopefully
limited
they don't have to
quarterback.
worry about that when they have home field advantage.
Okay.
So let me ask
It
you.
rains in Florida a lot.
It does,
A
man.
ton.
It does.
This is the last thing we'll do before we move on. I'm gonna name you these quarterbacks.
This guy
you
is
tell
just having
me.
a field day. All right, I'm fine with this.
You
Let's do
tell
it.
me if Tua's going to have a better season than them this upcoming year.
All right, let's do it.
Tom Brady,
No,
Justin Herbert,
no,
Matthew Stafford,
no,
Patrick Mahomes,
no,
Derek Carr,
no,
Joe Burrow,
no,
Dak Prescott,
no,
Josh Allen,
no.
Kirk Cousins,
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers,
No.
Matt Ryan,
Yes.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yes.
Well, I didn't even have to mention Jimmy. Mac Jones,
Yes.
Kyler
Easy.
Murray,
No.
Ryan Tannehill,
Yes.
Trevor Lawrence,
Yes.
Carson Wentz,
Yes.
Jalen Hurts,
Sorry, kid. Yes.
Understand.
Russell Wilson,
No, absolutely not.
Lamar Jackson,
No.
and that's it. Those
That
are
was
all the
very
names.
respectful compared to what we've said previously.
The Dak one, I really had to think
I was
about.
expecting you to say yes.
I was thinking about it.
I was expecting you to say yes.
I don't want to disrespect Dak. You lose Amari, your number one weapon, CeeDee Lamb, who is great. He's really great. I can't say he's not. But I do have concerns about Michael Gallup being the number 2, especially coming off a torn ACL.
Well, Cedric Wilson.
It's a tough situation there for me personally. But I still believe in Dak. He's a great quarterback.
I was expecting a lot more yeses.
I mean,
Not as
who am
hot
I going to
takey.
say yes? We're talking about like the elite of the elites. I'm saying he's going to be in that 11 to 15. Kirk Cousins was the best name that you named that I genuinely do believe he could be better than. Josh Allen's irrational. Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Herbert, like those are tough names to be better than right now. We need to see it first, which I believe.
You
Sure.
said Tua will be better than Joe Burrow long
Eventually.
term.
Eventually.
So you don't think this is the season where he could do it?
We just saw Joe Burrow come off the Super Bowl. He has Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. He's still in an exciting group of guys with a revamped offensive line. That offense is going to be prolific this year.
I mean, I think the Dolphins have better weapons than the Bengals.
Ooh. Oof. You're taking the freak over Jamar? And you're taking Waddle? I would take Waddle over Higgins.
I was going to say, that's why. It about evens out
It's
between
close.
Jamar and Tyreek.
It's close.
Bengals have better weapons than the Dolphins.
I think that's close. Cedric Wilson is a really good
Joe
number
Mixon.
3.
Joe Mixon.
Tyler Boyd's
backs.
better than Cedric Wilson
He
and
is.
Devontae
He
Parker.
is.
He
He
is.
is.
Yeah.
He is.
But I think the explosiveness of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Don't get me wrong. Jamar, yes.
T.
Jamar,
Higgins,
yes.
they're both the two of the best deep threats in the NFL.
But explosive,
Tyreek is the
explosive
best deep
duos,
threat, I agree.
don't think anyone's better than the Miami.
Fair.
Explosive
They're
duos.
the fastest for sure.
No, I
It's just
understand what you mean.
explosive.
I
Not
can't disagree.
You know, like
I
being
get
able to get in and
exactly
out of
what you're
routes,
saying.
speed it goes into it, quickness. Like,
Listen, we're going to see this season. I'm telling you, Tua's going to have a great season. He's going to have a great season. Nothing less than great.
gotta stay healthy too. It's been a big issue the last 2 years.
For sure. It's been wonky injuries.
It's
like
just-
weird
I think it's
injuries,
just
like
good for
finger
Teddy.
hand
But
injuries.
it's 3 years. It's
No,
college
But
last year.
it was a dislocated hip.
I know.
That's a freak crazy
but
injury.
it's three years in a row he's
Correct.
been injured.
No, fair.
And I'm just really high on the moves the Dolphins made because I think just that offense, Tyreek and Cedric Wilson with Devontae Parker and Waddle and Gesicki, those are perfect weapons for Teddy Bridgewater to thrive in.
What quarterbacks here did you think that you said that, or that I said that I think he would have a better season and that you disagree?
Kirk.
Kirk's the only one.
Kirk is probably the only one for me too.
Yeah, I think outside of, you said like no to everybody. So outside of Kirk.
Almost. I mean, listen, I feel like I said around like 10 no's off the top of my head. He could be that 11th best quarterback.
You paused for a second on Mahomes too. I was ready to freak out.
Nah, I know. It's
You
Mahomes.
paused on Rodgers.
Because of the weapens that they
I
have.
know.
But you know he's
Rodgers.
gonna have like a
it's Rodgers. You have
30
to respect
touchdown
him.
interception
You have to
ratio.
respect him.
Yeah.
So on to the next
Again,
topic.
Week 1 will come around, and I will be very overreactory. I will be very overreactionary.
Unless
Yeah,
they
that's the word.
lose,
Which they probably won't.
depending on who week
If you play
one
the
is.
Jets week 1, you're screwed.
Listen, 2-0 last season, kid.
By touchdown.
On to the next topic. The Indianapolis Colts traded for Matt Ryan. The Falcons got back a third-round pick for him. And Matt Ryan said in his presser that this is where I wanted to be. I wanted to be on the Indianapolis Colts. And he thought it was the perfect situation to be in. And I want to give my take on this first. Because the question for this topic is, how much better will Matt Ryan make the Indianapolis Colts? And I'm not sure about Drew, because Drew is very wishy-washy, right? There are some
consistent there is.
There are some shows where he's like, I've never disrespected Matt Ryan, and then he comes and spews Matt Ryan hate.
I've never done that a day in my life, other than the fact that he blew a 28-3 lead that I have to disrespect him for.
But I don't want to talk about you here
Thank you.
because
I appreciate that.
you're the biggest hater, Mr. Joel Dehls.
You're pretty low on Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan,
low.
excuse me.
The
I can't
hate
speak
that
English
you've
today.
given Matt Ryan has been utterly disgusting. That when I leave my house in the morning and I think about it, I spit on the floor.
I almost just spit up on the table.
Whenever you talk bad about Matt Ryan, I'm surprised it doesn't leave a bad taste in your mouth. Because it smells disgusting. The disrespect you give to Matt Ryan. You call Jalen Hurts better. Jalen Hurts can't even throw a consistent 15-yard out, and he's better. Listen, Matt Ryan to the Indianapolis Colts was the perfect situation for him. I've been saying it. He's underrated. He is still a great quarterback. The same place that we rank the same places that we rank the Derek Carrs, the Dak Prescotts, the Kirk Cousins. Matt Ryan is right up there, and I think Matt Ryan is a step above. If he's put in the right situation, he can do exactly what Matt Stafford did with the Rams. But the Colts roster isn't the Rams roster.
Thank you.
So
Thank
I don't
you.
know if
My
the Colts
God.
will be able to do that.
Stafford's better than Matt Ryan, bro. Stafford's a more talented
is so
quarterback.
easy.
Maybe 5 years ago, Matt Ryan, but this 36,
What do you mean
37
5
year
years
old.
ago? What do you mean? In 2018 threw for 35 touchdowns.
2018 was 4
That's
years
4
ago.
years ago.
Respect
It's
that, man.
2022.
You said 5 years ago.
Sorry, 4 years ago. My
Okay.
apologies.
Come on,
Okay,
stop
my
it.
apologies.
3
Stop
years ago,
it.
he threw for 26 touchdowns. Look, this is what I have to say.
That's mid. 26. That's what Wentz just said.
Stafford
This
threw
is-
for 41 touchdowns this year.
Wentz threw
Yeah,
26
'cause
touchdowns. Or 27.
He has great weapons. Give Matt Ryan that offense. He's throwing for
Julio
40
Jones.
touchdowns.
How many touchdowns did Wentz throw for last year?
26 touchdowns.
Okay.
27. 27 and 7.
Whatever.
One more than
Okay.
Matt Ryan. Cool.
Okay.
Go on,
Let me keep on going.
please.
There's a difference. There's a difference between the stat watchers and the tape watchers.
Oh, snap.
And I like to think I grind up tape. Because of that, I've felt bad for Matt Ryan for a long time. In an awful situation. The truth about Matt Ryan is that he almost threw for 4,000 yards last season with no weapons. So close. So close. Almost threw for 4,000 yards. He's missed one game in the last 3 seasons. One of the more durable quarterbacks this game has to offer. He has the most 4,000-yard passing seasons since 2011 with 10. Tied with Tom Brady, who's the greatest of all time, undisputedly. In terms of being clutch, the Colts' problem last year was that Carson Wentz was horrible in the second half, was horrible in the fourth quarter. Matt Ryan has 33 fourth-quarter comebacks, which is third amongst active quarterbacks in the NFL currently, top 10 all time. That's who Matty Ice is. He is going to be clutch. And
He's behind.
Matthew Stafford, he's clutch. He's a clutch demon. He's a clutch
But
demon.
you question him.
Maybe I do.
Okay.
He's clutch though.
When are you going to give that up?
I don't know.
All right.
The knock I see on Matt Ryan, and sure, Matt Ryan's not as good as he once was in his prime, but he's still a great quarterback. In his prime, he was elite. Now he's great. He's not elite. He's great. He's lost some of that arm strength, but
Definitely.
this past season, the season that everybody likes to say that he's washed in, he was top 3 in most accurate quarterbacks on 10-plus yard throws with Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert.
10+ yards.
Among 30 quarterbacks with at least 50 attempts of 15+ air yards in 2021, Matt Ryan ranked 20th in completion percentage. And I know that sounds bad, right? But he ranked 5th in on-target percentage and 2nd in catchable percentage. Nice. So it was mostly due to his receivers not being able to haul in those deep balls, and it was Matt Ryan's deficiencies as a deep ball thrower. He's number 3 in deep ball completion percentage. He's number 4 in pressure completion percentage. You talk about the Colts offensive line, pass blocking wise, isn't that great. It doesn't matter.
It's one of the worst.
Because Matt Ryan thrives under pressure, baby. He's going to sling that thing and sling it to Michael Pittman down the field, complete it all day.
Who else outside of Pittman?
That's who Matty Ice is. Matty Ice is a warrior. He's a soldier. He's a gamer.
Can I get
he
that
has
answer?
ice in his veins. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And he's going to show it. He's going to show it this upcoming season. And maybe the Colts don't get another weapon. I feel like they will for sure. Matt Ryan's record when he has a player rush for 100 yards or more is 37-6. That's an absurd winning percentage. That's absurd.
When his running back rushes for over 100, 33-6?
37-6.
37-6.
And do we have any doubts about JT rushing for 100+ yards every single given week? We don't have any questions about that. He's going to have an elite running back. He's going to have a great defense. The Colts had the most Pro Bowlers in 2021 with 7. And since 2018, Matt Ryan has had a bottom 20 defense in 3 of his last 4 seasons. And the one season they weren't bottom 20, they were ranked 19th. Wow, such a big difference. For the past 5 years, he's had no offensive line, no running game, no defense. He's had the weapon, sure, but everything else he hasn't had. And he still managed to have great seasons. And the numbers may not pop out at you. This is not my first rodeo. This is not the first time I've gone through this, because I remember back in 2019, Phillip Rivers threw 23 touchdowns and had 20 picks. I told Riv, Phillip Rivers still has gas in the tank. He went to the Colts. He led them to the playoffs. He had a great year in 2020.
They lost round 1.
They lost round 1. It was a close game. It was the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills were a great team. The Indianapolis Colts are winning the AFC South. There's no doubt about it. Matt Ryan is the best quarterback in that division by far. And he's going to prove to you and to everybody who doubts Matt Ryan that he's still a great quarterback, and I can't wait to see the goofy look on your face when he does.
Quick question before I get into mine. Are they getting out of the first round of the playoffs?
Matty Ice, anything is possible.
Are they making the playoffs?
They're making the playoffs for sure.
Over who?
They're winning their division.
They have to win the division. They have to.
You think they're not winning over the Giants?
No.
All right.
Respectfully, no.
It's going to be close. But that's what I'm most curious about, if you think they could get out of the first round of the playoffs. Because, I mean, sure, Wentz
I think they can.
Fell apart the second half of the year, but if he's historically bad, they're in the playoffs too. What you're expecting from Matt Ryan?
Yeah, they'll definitely be in the playoffs.
Okay. Here's my issue with Matt Ryan. And I made a video about it. Shout out to Joel Stakes if you want to go watch a 10 to 15 minute video of really my take on this Matt Ryan trade, because I don't completely disagree with you. I think Matt Ryan's an upgrade from Carson Wentz. I don't think in terms of intangibles, leadership, I think without a doubt he's having an upgrade over Carson Wentz statistically. I can make the argument that this past year Carson Wentz was better than Matt Ryan, and you're right though.
Raw
Carson
statistics.
Raw statistics, yes, but if you want to look at the the second half stats in fourth quarter, 100%. Carson Wentz fell apart in second half of games. But my biggest issue with this Matt Ryan trade, it doesn't do anything. Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz, sure, he's an upgrade. It's marginal. It's not a huge, you're not going from Baker Mayfield to Deshaun. You're not going from Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock to Russell Wilson. You are getting a marginal upgrade from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. And this is where two of my football philosophies kind of clash heads here. Marginal, because on one end, I'm a firm believer. If you could upgrade a quarterback, do it. Whatever it is. And for this, it was a 3rd round pick. But my other philosophy is, if you just have a whatever guy, if you're barely going to make the playoffs, if you're going to get eliminated in round 1, what's the point of getting an aging quarterback? Because you're not going to do anything. And that's not Matt Ryan's fault. if you look at the AFC, the quarterbacks are stacked. We have probably the most talented the AFC has ever been. We have arguably the most talented division in the AFC West that we've ever seen, with possibly all 4 teams making the playoffs. We have 3 teams in the AFC North we're all projecting to make the playoffs. And the AFC South, they're getting a little lucky because they're clearly the worst division in the AFC and up there with the NFC South in terms of worst division in football. But yes, statistically, I don't think it's much of an upgrade. I think when we look at the end of this 2022 season and we compare it to Wentz's 2021 season, it's going to be about the same. In this past season, Wentz had 7 more touchdowns. He had less interceptions, less turnover-worthy plays, and I understand that maybe Matt Ryan didn't have as much to work with. But you look at Indy. Does he have that much more in Indy? They have the 30th best pass blocking line. You have Michael Pittman. Is Michael Pittman going to be that much better than year 2 Kyle Pitts? I personally don't think so. Pitts just had 1,000 yards in his rookie season. There's only one other tight end in NFL history to do that. I even think with Marcus Mariota, he's going to compete with Michael Pittman in terms of yards and touchdowns. And I know Matt Ryan has this issue with throwing touchdowns because Julio couldn't catch any touchdowns. And Kyle Pitts, who's 6'6", runs a 4.5, a crazy vertical, only had 1 touchdown. It still blows my mind how that's able to happen. And Matt Ryan, while he only has a $24 million cap hit this season, they can get out of it next season if they do say, you know what, we screwed up. Matt Ryan's not the guy. It's obvious. You know, he's a 36, turning 37-year-old quarterback. We're in a crazy tough conference in the AFC. So while it's a marginal upgrade, to me, it doesn't move the needle. The Colts are going to be fighting for the division with the Titans. Maybe they get lucky. Maybe they get lucky and they win the division, first-round exit. If they don't win the division, they're missing the playoffs. So what was the point of the whole trade?
Maybe they get lucky.
Maybe they get lucky.
Did you just tell me that the Colts isn't a significant upgrade over the Atlanta Falcons situation?
I'm saying offensively. JT, sure, but pass catchers.
What do you mean JT, sure? He's the second best running back in the NFL.
Okay, and he was last year, and they missed the playoffs. Derrick Henry's the best running back in football. They were first round, or they lost their first game. Nick Chubb won the best rushers in football. The Browns missed the playoffs. Running back's important, but look at the NFL. It's not that important. Cam Akers was terrible in the playoffs. Joe Mixon didn't do much in the Super Bowl.
Let's try to actually use context in those situations. Nick Chubb was hurt throughout the year. And the entire
it wasn't his fault that the
entire Browns roster as a whole was hurt. Baker Mayfield torn labrum week 2.
We could go through the top 10 running backs and tell me which of those teams have made significant moves in the playoffs.
And also, let me also say this. You also brought up Jonathan Taylor and the Colts missing the playoffs. Well, it's because the guy that left, Carson Wentz, who Matt Ryan's replacing, collapsed at the end of the year.
He did.
That's why. That's why. They weren't supposed to. You two were the same guys. I'm gonna leave Drew out of this because he doesn't deserve this slander right now.
Thank you.
But you were talking about the Colts being dark horse contenders in the AFC, in large part to Jonathan Taylor and what he was doing.
Remind me.
You were the one that was like JT MVP. He should be in the conversation.
Real quick before you go on. Last season, did the Raiders have Chandler Jones and Devontae Adams? Did the Broncos have Russell Wilson? Did the Browns have Deshaun Watson? Did the Dolphins just get Tyreek Hill?
You think
Ron Armstead?
You think if the Colts matched up with the Raiders in the playoffs, they couldn't beat them?
The Raiders? I would take the Raiders.
Absolutely not. I'm leaning.
If you take the Raiders, I don't mind it. Like it's whatever.
They have a better quarterback. They have better weapons.
This is a hypothetical matchup.
A better defense, but
the Raiders' run defense was one of the worst in the NFL last year. They didn't do anything this offseason to get better in that area at all.
And look at the first round of the playoffs. They had a great game against the Bengals, and Joe Mixon was on clamps.
Well, okay, because the Bengals' offensive line, they don't have a good offensive line at all. And as much as you want to talk about the Colts' pass-blocking offensive line, the two biggest liabilities in pass blocking last year were Eric Fisher, who was coming off an injury, and Mark Glowinski. They got rid of both of them. That pass blocking offensive line was worse in large part to Carson Wentz holding the ball and trying to make a hero play all the time, for the most part.
But who did they have come in and replace left tackle, right tackle? No one yet?
No one yet. But they're still. To me. You're right. It is concerning, but they still have time.
And they had money. They could have easily made a play for
Tehran. They don't have a
first-round
pick or a third-round pick.
For you to act like, even if you just say, oh, it's just Jonathan Taylor, I mean, yeah, it's one of the... No,
Jonathan Taylor... I could think Jonathan Taylor is one of the best running backs in football and still realize that just because you're a great running team doesn't mean you're going to have success in the playoffs.
So do you want me to name you these 10 running backs?
Yeah, please.
But it's also... They have one of the best offensive lines. You talk about pass blocking, okay. The ranking in totality was a top 15 unit in football. So Matt Ryan's going
top
from
15 run blocking offensive line. I'm supposed to be blown away by that.
No, they were a top 5 run blocking offensive line. I'm talking about in
top 15?
totality,
Okay.
they were a top 15 offensive line unit. So Matt Ryan's going from one of the worst offensive lines to one of the better ones.
In terms of
and
running,
he's going to
run blocking.
he's going to a situation where they actually have one of the best running backs in the NFL.
See, but
that's a significant upgrade.
But running the ball, you love to talk shit about these Ravens teams when they went 14-2 and they have these great rosters and they have the best rushing attack and they didn't do anything.
What did I talk? With
And
the
not
Ravens,
today's episode, but in almost every episode, it's the Ravens. You love to bring up how Lamar has struggled in the playoffs. He has this stacked roster, and all of these teams are great rushing teams. They struggle in the playoffs. Just because you have a good running back, and Jonathan Taylor is all world, he could be the best running back in football next season. That doesn't mean you're going to have success in the playoffs.
The playoffs are all about matchups. The Raiders and the Colts, that is not a good matchup for the Raiders because they don't have a good run defense. They have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL.
That point is fair.
We look at the Titans. They can definitely beat the Titans. The Titans don't have a secondary to speak of right now. You also look at the AFC West with the Chiefs and how they look now defensively. Their defense is vulnerable. That's a matchup that could favor the Colts.
You're taking the Chiefs over the Colts over the Chiefs?
It's a favorable matchup.
You're taking the Colts over the Chiefs.
I mean, right now, we're a year away from any of this happening.
You're taking the Colts over the Chiefs.
It's all about matchups in the playoffs.
Tell me, if they matched up,
it's
Colts
all about
the Chiefs.
It's all about matchups in the playoffs. And for example,
why are you avoiding the question?
Because I don't feel like it's necessary for me to answer it to make my point.
Because you know
now.
it'd be ridiculous to say that the Colts could actually beat the Chiefs,
And
even
in
with the whole
in the
matchup
AFC
thing.
North, if you want to pick the Ravens to win that division, Colts versus the Ravens, that favors the Colts. That matchup favors the Colts too. So I'm saying,
and the Bengals, the
Colts,
Browns,
yeah, I think the Bengals. That's a much more even thing too.
and the Browns.
The Browns, Deshaun, you know how I feel about the Browns. But for you to act like the Colts are this marginally better team
They
with
are
Matt
marginally
Ryan
better.
is ridiculous.
But can we be
They're
real?
not. They're significantly better.
And who is
because
their
of other
second,
moves they made?
Who is their second option?
They're
on the
going
outside?
from what the 18th or 19th best quarterback to the 15th or 14th best quarterback.
You got to understand, Matt Ryan is the 15th, 14th best quarterback under that situation that he was in, the horrible situation he was in.
He's going to crack the top 10, bro. Like
he can have a top 10 season. He can definitely have a top 10 season in Indy.
But how?
For sure.
With no number 2 option, unless you're saying which is fair. Matt Ryan does dump off to the running back more than Carson Wentz does. My whole point being is Paris Campbell being my number 2 making me look at this Colts offense and thinking Matt Ryan, I'm plugging in, they're automatically a playoff team. I can't do that.
They're automatically a playoff team with Matt Ryan. There's no doubt about it.
I can't say
There's no doubt about it. They're automatically a playoff team with Matt Ryan.
And the only reason you can say that so confidently is because the AFC South is right now at least in question. And even still, to have them over Tennessee, who was just the number 1 seed, when week in, week out, I'll say we, because all of us were here collectively doubting Tennessee, and week in, week out, they constantly kept winning. With injuries, any type of adversity, they kept riding through it. We have to give credit to Mike Vrabel. We have to give credit to everything that defense did last year, regardless of what we may think about it. They kept winning. We can't just project right now the Colts, who just added Matt Ryan with still no addressing the left tackle, no addressing the right tackle.
And the Colts also lost their DC.
And no addressing the number 2 option on their team. How can I look at the Colts right now and project them to be over the Titans?
And losing Eberflus, too. We talk about how losing Flores is going to hurt so much, but the same thing. That their defense has been great the last few seasons.
The Colts have more talent defensively than the Dolphins. That's the difference.
And secondary-wise, let's be real. Are the Colts a good secondary right now?
Right now,
Kenny Moore is solid, but outside of that, that is their only talent.
Right now, they have a great nickel and Kenny Moore. That's about it. But you look at the Colts front 7, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Yannick Ngakoue. They just got him. Kwity Paye, who was really good as a rookie.
We agree that Yannick Ngakoue is not good.
As a pass rusher, he's really good.
He was solid last season with the Raiders.
Last week we said you just agreed that Yannick Ngakoue is not a great player.
He's not a great player, but he's a great pass rusher. All around, he's not a great player, though. He's a great pass rusher.
Okay, I'll let you have it.
Darius Leonard's one of the better linebackers in the NFL.
Sure. He's amazing.
They still have holes on his team. There's no doubt about it. But you mentioned the Titans. The Colts weren't far off from the Titans. It took the Colts collapsing at the end of the year, plus the Titans beating them 2 times last year, for them to ultimately secure the division. Both games, may I add, that Carson Wentz folded. One of them where he just threw a pass to the defender, which was a pick 6 versus the Titans.
That's the first game or the second game? Second
I
game I remember was being really
first
close.
Game. The second game was closer. The first game, Carson Wentz was boneheaded in it.
The Colts last year went 9-8. I think this Colts team is probably going to go 10-7, and if they go to the playoffs, they'll lose in the first round. That's why I think it's marginally better, because if your big thing is he got Jonathan Taylor, who's a great running back, we've seen year after year, just because you have a great running game, that doesn't always translate to wins.
Well, if you
or
think
playoff wins, rather.
That's your projection for the Colts, and if you think the Colts are going to lose in the first round, then so be it. Like that's your opinion. But I'd rather my team gets to the playoffs and we'll see what happens.
That's the thing. I don't even know if they will, though.
They'll get to the playoffs for sure.
Which is fair. You can have that opinion.
No,
I don't doubt.
I think guaranteed. I just
guarantee is nuts.
Guaranteed they'll make the playoffs.
Are they better than the Dolphins?
It's really close.
Now, to your point about the top 10 rushers.
And between Matt Ryan and Tua, I'm going with Matt Ryan.
Nah, we'll see. I disagree, but I understand. Matt Ryan has a laundry list of seasons to back up that claim, so it's fair. Jonathan Taylor didn't make the playoffs. Nick Chubb didn't make the playoffs. Joe Mixon made the playoffs, was underwhelming. Najee Harris made the playoffs, first-round exit. Dalvin Cook missed the playoffs. Antonio Gibson missed the playoffs. Ezekiel Elliott played for the Cowboys, first-round exit. First-round exit. Elijah Mitchell, Super Bowl. Yep. Derrick Henry, he
made the playoffs.
Lost in the first round, but yes, you're 100% right. And Damian Harris, first-round exit.
Sick.
What was that proving that running backs are...
I'm just saying, because your biggest thing was when I said, cool, they got Jonathan Taylor, it did come off a bit disrespectful because JT's phenomenal, but in terms of having impacts and in the playoffs and carrying you to a Super Bowl, that doesn't happen.
That's not my point, though. Like, you made that your point to try to back up the claim that JT and going from Atlanta to Indy is not this big thing.
Offense, in terms of
I never said
weapons, it's really
correct me if I'm
huge.
wrong, Drew, but did I ever say JT's going to lead you to a Super Bowl? Did I ever say he's going to lead you to multiple playoff wins? I just said
he's going to play a huge role.
I just said for you to act like him going from Atlanta to Indianapolis is not a significantly better situation is just wrong.
He's upgrading significantly on defense.
The claim,
even offensively,
one of the arguments you said was 37-6 when running backs rush for over 100. So then when you obviously bring in Jonathan Taylor, who is the second best running back in football, I can understand where someone may perceive that as you're saying, if you're giving him the number 2 running back in football,
90% winning percentage,
why can't?
Yeah, I'm saying
14-3.
Matt Ryan, when he has a running back who's actually good, because he's never had a running game outside of those Shanahan years and those early years in Atlanta. He's won games. He's at a great pace. Like it barely loses.
So question, is this team better or worse than last year?
It's significantly better.
But how?
Because of Matt Ryan.
So because they went from the 19th best quarterback to the 15th best quarterback.
Outside of Matt Ryan, is there anything different?
They lost their left tackle. They lost
Yannick Ngakoue coming in.
So outside of Matt Ryan, they got worse.
I don't think so. I don't think losing Eric Fisher is getting worse. He was one of the worst tackles in pass pro.
Fair.
And Glowinski, he can go.
But that's my fear.
They haven't replaced him.
And you don't have a number 2.
Okay, they haven't replaced him. This is why I don't want to get into this talk just yet, because the draft is a month away.
Sure.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Unless they
don't have a first-round pick.
Unless they make a splash, like the Tyreek Hill type of splash, this team, their absolute upside is first-round exit.
The Chiefs last year, going into they got Joe Tooney, yes, and they traded for Orlando Brown. But what solidified the interior of the offensive line was drafting Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. That obviously is an anomaly situation, but this draft has a lot of depth. And Indianapolis,
they don't have a lot of picks, though.
Indianapolis, with those picks, with the picks they do have, can get significant upgrades.
They did get
there are still
2/3.
There are still players out there in free agency that they could target. They could get. I think the biggest reason why we weren't seeing Indy make moves and being aggressive is because they didn't have a quarterback yet. They had to wait for them to get a quarterback. How dumb would it be for the Colts to splurge on free agency, not have a quarterback, then wouldn't be able to trade for a Matt Ryan because they have no cap space to trade for him?
They wouldn't be.
Now they have the quarterback. So now we're going to see them fill out the roster around him with the cap space remaining.
The Colts, who won 9 games last year, a game out of the playoffs, we're expecting them. I think it's a marginal upgrade, and I think that matters. So I do think they'll win 10 games, and maybe they win the division. But even still, does this change? Like, the Colts were a game away from a first-round exit last year. To me, they're still a first-round exit this year.
You didn't think – you said a game away from the first-round exit, but you had them as your dark horse contenders.
At one point.
They were a dark horse
At one point, and
contender.
then Wentz fell off the rails.
That's really what happened.
And that's not Matt Ryan's not going to do that.
The thing is,
But
they
the
got
AFC is way
exposed for
too
not
good,
having
bro.
a number 2 option. When your number 2 option has under 400 receiving yards, you have a problem.
Let me ask you guys a question. You guys think if the Broncos and Indy matched up in the playoffs,
The Broncos are winning, and I'm not thinking much about it.
You really think it's like that?
What?
It's set in stone like that?
Yes.
Why
It's
is
not
that-
set in stone
yes.
like
Why
that.
is that the team of all teams you bring up?
Because there are certain teams in the AFC that I think,
Just call the Broncos
I'm
pretenders.
going-
We know you want to say it.
not even that, but there are teams in the AFC that I think I would not pick certain teams over. The Bills are one of those that they're one of my Super Bowl favorites. The Browns are 2, and the Chargers are 3. Because the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill, I dropped them down. But right now,
They're going to make moves at receiver.
right now, I know, but right now my big 3 is the Bills, the Browns, and the Chargers.
And
And
even-
those 3, if
even
you
with
ask me
Deshaun
who's and
Getting
if,
suspended 6 to 8 games?
if they make the playoffs and Deshaun's playing, yeah, I have
Sure,
him,
but
I have him in the top
he's going to
3.
get
Do
suspended
you
6
think
to 8.
he's going to get suspended?
Oh,
he
definitely.
missed a full season.
He's going to get suspended without a doubt.
That's what I don't know. He missed a full season.
No, okay,
already.
you're
gonna get
right,
suspended.
but in the playoffs, if they make it, he's going to play.
I
So
understand,
he's
but
gonna-
if you're missing half a season without Deshaun,
Do
it's
you-
an uphill battle in a tough division, a tough AFC.
Do you genuinely believe he's going to miss a season and a half?
I think he gets suspended 6 games minimum.
They faced the NFC South this season,
Okay, that
the Browns.
lucky for them.
So if Jacoby could go 3-3 in those games, or 4-2, if they do play, he can start off pretty well.
I don't know. Jacoby was pretty bad with the Dolphins.
This is a different offense.
Jacoby's
This is a different offense. I think Jacoby's a good backup quarterback.
He's a serviceable
Yes,
backup.
he's a-
Agreed.
He can win you games. He can
If I need Jacoby for
stay
2 to 3
afloat.
games, okay. If I need Jacoby 6 to 8 games, I'd
okay,
rather
but
cut Keenum.
of course we're just talking about Deshaun with the Browns.
I know what you mean.
They're my top 3.
I'm with him though.
Everything else is kind of up in the air for me.
But why are you so low on the Broncos? We have everything.
You
have it.
don't.
We
You don't
do.
have everything.
I
All right,
don't know how
we
you
don't
can
have
put the
everything.
Colts over the Raiders or the
But
Broncos right
this
now,
is
bro.
this is
What don't we have?
Miami
this is my
too
gripe.
Let's
right
not get
there.
into that.
this is my gripe with your pessimism though. Is that you act like making the playoffs is a bad thing.
It's not.
Like you act like you act like, oh man, the Colts, yeah, they got Matt Ryan, but they're a first round exit anyway, so why make the move?
Well, they were a game away last season from the playoffs, right? You bring in Matt Ryan,
and it takes them there.
you
I
get
just
to the
think
playoffs,
it takes them
but
there.
you have
I think it's
a
just a
result
middling
that you're
move,
not happy
bro.
with.
But this is the thing, you guys
If you're an
are
AC in the NBA and you get swept in the first round for 3 years, does it matter that you've made the playoffs for 3 years in a row?
NBA is much different than the NFL in that aspect though,
Why?
because I think in the NBA, is much more predictable. NBA is much more predictable. In the NFL,
Then you have the Knicks as
teams-
the 3 seed.
yeah, but in the NBA, things are much more predictable.
Mm-hmm.
In the NFL, things aren't. Nobody had the Bengals making the
Yes.
Super Bowl in the NFL.
That's
Did you
facts.
have them making it?
I don't know.
Oh, you didn't.
Hey,
okay,
hey.
Did anyone have the Suns making those finals last year?
a lot of people did.
What?
A lot of people did.
Last year?
After
I
beating
know,
the, after
I know
beating
the
the
bubble
Lakers, a
they
lot
were
of people
great.
did.
I know the bubble they were.
Oh, I'm talking
But after,
preseason.
after they were the 2 seed,
Oh,
We're talking
Preseason, no.
preseason
They're
because
the
that's
2
really
seed.
that's what
Oh,
we're
but
talking
no,
about.
not
preseason.
even. No, that's not solely what I'm talking about because
Uh-huh.
before the playoffs started, at the start of the playoffs,
people thought they were pretenders.
nobody had the Bengals making it that far. Not preseason. I mean, they were
And even
bottom
still, bro,
dwellers.
the Bengals were a game away from missing the playoffs.
Which is nuts.
Okay, so that just goes to show you how things in the NFL are unpredictable.
But to
the
an
Bengals,
extent.
the Bengals. Look, listen.
To an
the
extent.
The Bengals were a game away from missing the playoffs, but they didn't. They made it, and they made it all the way to the Super Bowl. So the Colts were a game away from missing the playoffs, but now with Matt Ryan, they get into it. All I ask is that you get into the dance. And then you teach me how to tango. But after that, I just want to get there.
But if
you
you
are
have-
making it, you
well,
are so low
bro.
on this move because you're like, you get there, but you're going to lose. But I'd rather just get
you look
there.
at the Colts team, the Bengals, while it was unpredictable, you have an elite quarterback and 2 elite wide receivers. That's going to
And a
translate
defense
in
that was playing
That's
very
going to
well.
translate in the
One
playoffs.
of the worst
Matt-
offensive lines, though.
It worked. It worked out. That
the
was
thing
the
is-
first team ever that was able to make a Super Bowl
Correct.
run with a terrible.
Why?
It's an anomaly.
Why?
They were an anomaly, bro.
Why?
They had great weapons.
I just explained it though.
They had great weapons.
I just explained
It wasn't because it was like one of those, we're just on one of these runs. We got into the dance and we can just do this thing because we're here. We're one of these 7
Like,
teams and we
it's-
can
I
make it
just
happen.
explained
Burrow-
it though.
My point being
Joe
is,
Burrow versus Matt Ryan.
correct.
T. Higgins and Jamar Chase versus Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell.
I just explained it though.
We're playing
Because
different sports.
I just explained it though.
and the
because
Bengals
the
defense
NFL
is better than the Colts.
No, it's not.
The way that it played in the playoffs, you could have
They're
debated that.
comparable. They're definitely
And
comparable.
I just said I just said it. But you guys are trying to get into the specifics of things instead of looking at it in a broad view. I just said it. It's unpredictable. The NFL is unpredictable.
It is.
The NBA is much different. We know the Hornets don't stand a chance. In the NFL, the last team making the playoffs has a chance. Outside of like the Steelers and Eagles last year.
You have a very good point.
Every team, when you get into the playoffs, it's all about matchups. It's all about hot streaks. It's all about momentum. How many times have we seen teams who are not favored make a run and win it all, or at least get there?
It's just hard. If you don't have an elite quarterback or a great head coach, like it's unlikely that you're going to be making a Super Bowl run.
Zach Taylor's a great head coach.
Listen,
no, but Joe Burrow's an elite quarterback.
Look at the Steelers. They got into the playoffs, right? They should be happy with that. Did you ever in your right mind think that the Chiefs were going to lose that game?
No. Without it, no.
But there's certain teams you look at and just think, you know what?
Colts aren't one of those teams, though.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes,
they're
are.
not explosive enough.
The Steelers were one of those teams because they had one of the worst-ranked defenses last year, and Big Ben was one of the worst quarterbacks last season. We knew Big Ben went into that game saying, we just want to have fun. You know, he basically said the Chiefs are going to whoop our ass. The Colts are not one of those teams. If JT has a season similar to last year again this season, I mean, the reason you called the Colts dark horses wasn't because of Carson Wentz. It was because of Jonathan Taylor.
But Carson Wentz was playing game management football.
And he was playing well.
Matt Ryan is better than Carson Wentz. So if you think the Colts are dark horse contenders with Carson Wentz,
the AFC has gotten significantly better over this past year.
They've gotten better, but it's
significantly. They just gained 2 top 8 quarterbacks.
It's not like Matt Ryan is a pushover. It's not like the Colts are a pushover.
He's not elite,
I'm going to say something crazy. I would not be surprised if Wentz had a better season than Matt Ryan this year. I'm going to be honest.
When you look at Matt Ryan's 2022 numbers and Wentz's 2021 numbers, they're going to be very, very similar.
I'm not going to count that out.
I mean, Matt Ryan's just going to be better in situational football, third down, fourth quarter type of football. Matt Ryan, without doubt, is going to be better than that. But their raw numbers at the end of the season, bro, they're going to, like, Wentz had a good statistical season. He just fell off the last month, 6 weeks of the season.
And you need him not to.
Of course. And that's why I said it is an upgrade over Carson Wentz. It just doesn't move the needle enough for me to say the Colts have a chance to win the Super Bowl. Bro, they're what? They're the 9th best team in the AFC, maybe?
I never said they got a chance to win a Super Bowl. I'm just saying the NFL is unpredictable. And all I ask after the Colts missed the playoffs last year, I think all Colts fans want right now is to get in the dance. That's all they want to do. They want to get in the dance. That's it. You know, the Jets trading for Tyreek Hill, right? We wanted to trade for Tyreek Hill because he was going to make Zach Wilson's ceiling exponentially higher. And because if we would have traded for Tyreek Hill, we probably are in the mix of those teams that could potentially sneak into the playoffs. When you said it last episode, you were like, the Jets can be better than the Bengals. You said that those were your exact words.
Yes, I've been on record.
So would you say, no, let's not get Tyreek Hill because even if we get into the playoffs, we're going to lose in the first round.
We have a franchise quarterback in Zach Wilson. Matt Ryan's not going to be around for 5 years.
That is a difference.
Matt Ryan can play 2 to 3 more seasons at a high level.
How high are we talking?
Top 15. Top 15
So
level.
what he's already been playing at?
Yeah. I think Matt Ryan's not going to fall off anytime soon. And that's what I'm saying. All you can ask for is to get into the dance. All these other things about them losing in the first round, that this and that. I mean, can we just wait and see on how the Colts offense looks with Matt Ryan?
I'll be honest, bro. Barring like 3 or 4 injuries to top quarterbacks in the AFC, I will be the entire season, even if the Colts go 17-0, I will be saying their first round exit team.
Well, good thing the NFL
17-0.
Like I'm gonna have such take lock. It's ridiculous.
Well, good thing that the NFL is not just based on quarterback matchups, and that's not ultimately what wins all the time.
That's pretty true. We just saw Jimmy G go to the NFC Championship and beat arguably the best quarterback in the league in Aaron
We just
Rodgers.
saw Joe Burrow beat Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow's not better than Patrick Mahomes.
I'll take my odds getting the better quarterback to win more often than not.
More often than
I'll
not.
take my odds.
Stafford
It's a
beat Joe
probability
Burrow.
thing.
There you go. Better quarterback won.
You're right, but I'm saying is the Colts have a complete roster. This is
Do
not.
they?
They do.
They don't.
This
Then
is
who?
This is
They
not.
have a complete roster.
This is not.
But they have
a more complete roster. Are you saying from last year?
a complete, like they have a complete team.
Yeah, they don't. Secondary wise, they don't.
Bro,
Receiver wise, they don't.
The second most important position in football is wide receiver. They don't have anything. They have Pittman. That's it.
Who's a 1,000-yard receiver?
Michael Pittman is a low-end wide receiver, 1 high-end wide receiver,
But he's still a great receiver though.
But they need a number.
You want to use his
2.
terminology, but he's a great receiver.
But
that's it.
Joel, can we please? They don't have a wide receiver 2.
Do you?
That's huge.
Let me ask you something, Drew. Do you think, let's just be objective here.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to pick at your Broncos, but I think it's the easiest team to kind of counter and compare to.
Okay.
Are the Broncos a complete team?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think they're more complete than the Colts?
Easy.
Okay. Whose offensive line is better?
Ours.
You think so, for real?
Yeah. We don't have a right tackle. That's it.
Defensive line, whose is better?
Theirs.
Linebackers, who are better?
Theirs right now.
Your secondary is better. I'll give you that position.
Thank you very much.
I think their offensive line is better. If you want to say the Broncos,
I'll take the Broncos
you can
too.
say that. JT is better than Javonte.
We'll see.
JT's better.
He is,
JT
but
is
we'll
better than
see.
Javonte's
We'll see.
going to do more than enough. I
We'll
would
see.
rather have your wide receiver core with Javonte than
Listen,
the Colts
I
wide
agree
receiver core.
that
with
Jonathan
This is what I'm
better.
saying.
However,
This is what I'm saying.
he could.
This is what I'm saying. Although the Broncos, you guys don't have better weapons than most teams in the AFC at the top that are competing
At
for
the
Super
top,
Bowl.
I agree.
You don't. But why are you happy as a Broncos fan?
Because we brought in a quarterback that is going to maximize the weapons that we already have that already have high ceilings.
But in simpler terms, it's because Russell Wilson gives you a chance. He gives you a chance not only to win games in the regular season, but he's going to get you to the playoffs.
Russell Wilson,
And
yes.
then
We're talking about a potential top 5
talking about
quarterback.
Okay,
Wilson.
what we're saying, Russell Wilson is going to get you to the dance. He's going to get you to the playoffs. Out from there on, whatever happens, happens. Matt Ryan is going to get you to the playoffs
not
with this
Russell
roster.
Wilson, bro.
Exactly. That's the difference.
He's
We're
not
talking
Russell
like
Wilson.
10 spot
Where
difference.
does Matt Ryan rank amongst top AFC quarterbacks right now?
You're
8 to
asking
10,
me off the top
8
of
to
my... All
11?
right, we'll take
8 to 11 is ridiculous. What
the
hell?
We'll take Mahomes. We'll take Allen. We'll take Deshaun. We will take
Burrow.
Burrow. We'll take Herbert.
Lamar.
We'll take Russ. We'll take Lamar. So already he's
Okay,
nearing,
there's 8.
He's nearing 8.
Who are we missing?
It's just Carr and then it's Ryan.
Okay, I would
Or
take
Ryan
Carr.
and Carr.
So he's
Okay,
at
so 8 to
9.
11. That sounds about right.
And you could really debate
Debate
a
who?
few guys at
Who can you
at
debate?
this point in time.
Who do you debate?
Tannehill?
Tannehill's not better than Matt Ryan.
I would take Matt Ryan. And are we projecting?
it's
We're
a
just talking about
conversation.
now.
It's a conversation.
Are we projecting? We're talking about now.
What's a conversation?
Tannehill and Matt Ryan.
Oh my God.
Tannehill had one bad season,
no,
bro.
it's a conversation
Tannehill
because
had one
Tannehill
bad
was
year.
he was fantastic.
One
2
bad
years
year
ago.
in Tennessee?
Yes.
This past year was bad.
But
The
let's
previous
be
2
real.
seasons were great.
He was hurt in Miami, and he was really good.
He's not Matt Ryan, bro. Let's stop it.
I agree.
Let's stop it.
I agree.
Let's stop it.
Even still,
he's not Matt Ryan.
But at this point in time,
He's not Matt Ryan.
and are we projecting? Or are we just talking about right now?
Why? Because you want to put Lawrence over him?
No, I want to put Tua over him.
Oh my God.
Projecting.
Tua's not better than Matt Ryan, bro.
Projecting. Are we
He's
going to?
not better than
All right,
Matt
if we're
Ryan.
talking about right now,
I'm not going to lie, bro. I think the Colts have the worst pass catching room in the entire AFC.
They might have the worst pass catching room, low key in the NFL.
They might.
That's
but
a huge
that
issue.
doesn't- But they will still be a playoff lock with
I would
Matt
take
Ryan.
the Lions wide receiver room over the Colts.
It's not that.
Amon-Ra
their-
Hawk.
Yeah, their wide
Yeah.
receiver room's not that bad.
Amon-Ra Hawk for sure.
But the good thing about the Colts is that they're a complete team. They have.
They're not.
They have
Secondary
position-
wise, they're not.
But they have a great defense all around.
And receiver wise,
Their
they're
offense and offense like
You're not worried at
offensive line,
all
they're
about their
not.
DC leaving?
we wanna Matt Eberflus. This is the thing about that. The talent is still there.
It is.
It's still there.
But
they have a Pro Bowler on the defensive line.
But
They have an
defenses-
All-Pro at the linebacker
Defenses
position. They had
change
a Pro Bowl
ton
nickel.
year to year, bro. Just like you said, the NFL's unpredictable. Defenses change a ton
and
year
But
to
the
year.
Colts have the talent.
And secondary in this current NFL, where wide receiver is now the second most impactful on a football team, you need the corners, you need the secondary to go up against
The
these
Colts,
guys.
one of the biggest needs they had this offseason was getting an edge rusher. They got it with Yannick and
They got it.
They drafted one last year with Kwity Paye. Grover
Solid.
Stewart and DeForest Buckner, that front four is a very scary front four. What I'm saying is that Matt Ryan's going to get you there. Whether or not you want to say, you guys want to nitpick at these position groups are not complete because of this and that.
The second most important position in football is wide receiver.
The bottom line is that
They
they,
have
had
nothing.
the
They
bottom
have Michael
line is
Pittman.
that they
Good
had
luck.
a top 15 offense and defense this past season.
No weapons.
That's a pretty complete team to me. If anybody goes to you and says you
It's
have
an
a top
average team.
I think they might have been higher. Let me just look at it. I'm just saying top 15 to be generous.
After
because
this.
yeah, we'll wrap it up
Yeah,
after this.
Yeah, like even if you look at defenses from 2020, like the Steelers. Had
Okay,
the third
so
best
they had
defense,
the
Washington
ninth best
fourth best. They were
offense,
terrible.
ninth best defense.
Really good. And they missed the playoffs?
Yeah,
That's
because
nuts.
of Carson Wentz. So a team that has a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, that to me sounds like a complete team. You know, whether or not you want to nitpick at these position groups, they get the yardage, they get the stops on defense. It's a top 10 unit on both sides.
Just defenses as a whole could change so much year to year. You lose Matt Eberflus. He's the head coach now in Chicago. I understand the talent's still there, but a lot of things happen year to year. Like in 2020, the Steelers and Washington were the top 5 defenses in the NFL. The next year, they were terrible. And they still had talent, both of them. Maybe injuries had to play a part in some of it, but regardless.
Injuries played a huge part with the Steelers.
That could happen to any team at any time.
I know, but we are under the assumption these teams are healthy.
We're projecting healthy.
Like you're trying to knock throwing injuries.
I'm just saying, bro. Defenses change a lot year to year. You could be the best defense in the league, like Washington was, and fall off a cliff.
The difference with the Colts is that they have the talent.
So,
like I think
Washington had all the talent.
Secondary, they didn't. They didn't. The Washington, they don't have any linebackers.
I agree.
And their secondary is middle of the pack,
they
below
got
average.
William Jackson. We expected them to upgrade, and it didn't work out.
William Jackson wasn't good there.
Yeah.
The only good corner they had was Kendall Fuller. The defensive line is still productive. It's still one of the better defensive lines, but they don't have anybody to cover. That's their problem.
Hey, it worked in 2020.
Indy has Darius Leonard.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah, they have an all-pro. They have Pro Bowlers on that
Young
defense.
was on all-pro projection before he
Their
got hurt.
only hope is that their defense can play how the Niners defense played in the playoffs, where their front seven is getting to the quarterback, they're really pressuring them, and they're not relying on their secondary to make plays as often. If that's the best case scenario, then fine, I'm with you. But
So-
it's really it's a lot to ask of them.
So you guys don't think the Colts are making the playoffs?
I personally do not have them in the playoffs right now.
Okay.
I think they'll win 10 games, so they'll be right on the edge. But I don't think they get out of the first round.
So are they making the playoffs or are they not making the playoffs?
That's their ceiling, first round. But for me, I'm not having.
I will make a bet with you both right now that they make it. I'm that confident.
It wouldn't surprise me if they.
All right, how much?
It would be the division.
It's $20 each.
Done.
Okay, a friendly $20 wager.
So you're saying no, that they won't make the playoffs?
Yeah, sure. Because that Gabe Davis bet's gonna cover me regardless.
The who?
Gabe Davis
Gabe
under
Davis?
1,000 yards.
1,000 yards was a lot.
He's gonna get 1,000. It's with Josh Allen.
With Jameson Crowder.
Bro, if you think James Crowder is better than Gabe Davis, you need to get drugs.
How much better or worse is Jameson Crowder than Cole Beasley?
They're Cole Beasley's better
By a lot.
I think he's a significant upgrade.
Oof.
I've seen Jameson Crowder put up some pretty good seasons with Sam Darnold.
I mean, I saw Jameson in Washington. I know he's a good slot.
I'm excited.
Yeah, should be good. I love that signing because I saw Gabe Davis.
He thinks he's so low on Gabe Davis. It's going to be funny when he actually does what you think he's not.
I'm excited for Gabe Davis this season also.
Can't wait. 5th round pick. I'm sure he's going to hit.
Before we go on to our next topic, college basketball fans join the action on the court during the biggest tournament of the year with DraftKings Sportsbook. Turn your team's victory into your own big win. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. It's that simple. If they win, you win. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still join the college hoops action with DraftKings Pools. Everyone can play free pools all March long for a shot at a share of over $250,000 in prizes. Simply join a pool and answer questions like who will make it to the next round and who will hit the most three-pointers, then track your results. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TBPN. Bet $5 on any college hoops team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If they win, you win with promo code TBPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. Okay, and we're back. We had to take a quick intermission because Drew had to go to the bathroom.
My tummy be rumbling. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. You don't do it that often, but you're.
I really try to keep it all within myself until the end of the show.
Did you have cheese or something? Or
it's the fried the bacalao.
Oh, facts.
I'm surprised because you have a problem with like your stomach, right?
Yeah,
huge.
I'm pretty stupid when it comes to the things that I ingest, but
So he put that very lightly.
yeah, he was being very nice and I appreciate it, but yeah, I'm not the smartest, unfortunately. I really am not.
We all have our
I
vices.
I have switched to lactate milk. I have switched to like oat milk. Like I'm really trying to stay off the dairy products, but
You love ice cream.
I can't help it, man.
Bro's a slut for
Need
some
my
ice cream.
fix.
I like coffee too. I know that coffee's bad for me in the morning because
All day, every day.
whenever I drink coffee, I have to take a poop.
That's what protein does to me, bro. When I have my protein shake at night,
You gotta
give me 20 or 30 minutes and it goes right through me.
Plant-based protein does wonders for your digestive system.
A bowel movement never hurt.
No, never. But you digest it better and you take a cleaner dump.
Nice, bro. You would know. So.
Exactly.
I'm sorry to the audience out there that's listening right now that just had to ingest about 40 minutes of Matt Ryan slander.
It's not Matt Ryan slander. It's the Colts have the worst weapons in the AFC slander.
It does kill me when we go on tangents on like the most random things.
Yeah,
we're just
Matt Ryan, bro.
40 minutes.
It makes me sick to my stomach. But we're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons, a team that traded Matt Ryan, because I feel like this has been kind of a weird week for them. They tried to get Deshaun Watson. That didn't go as planned. It ruined a lot of their free agent plans, and you can make an argument that had they not went after Deshaun, Matt Ryan is still an Atlanta Falcon, somebody who's brought so much success to that franchise, someone who means the world to the city of Atlanta. I was on Twitter not too long ago before the start of the show, and I saw a video of a girl who's now 18 who's been watching Atlanta Falcons football since she was 3, and she was crying looking at Matt Ryan's tribute.
He's a Falcon legend without a doubt.
And he's just such a great dude, got a great smile on his face. Love to shake his hand one day so I could feel the hand of one of the best quarterbacks ever played a game.
Is he the best Falcons quarterback of all time?
He probably has longevity stats over Vic.
He's better than Vic, even Prime.
Oh, my God.
Prime Ryan versus Prime Vic, Matt Ryan's better, bro.
Can't agree.
Mike Vick was he completed like 50% of his passes.
And?
Mike Vick was revolutionary, though.
Okay, maybe, but doesn't mean that he's better than Matt Ryan.
Statistically, facts. Matt Ryan's going to have it, but
Matt Ryan's way better than him.
Statistically, yeah.
He's an MVP.
He is.
Michael Vick would never be that.
That's so rude.
The year that Michael Vick went to jail, he rushed for 1,000 yards.
He's a freak.
Like, that is crazy.
And once he got Andy Reid, he stepped it up OD compared to his Falcons year.
And you can say that, Mike Vick.
It's insane. 1,000 yards, then goes to prison. That is crazy, man.
Mike Vick definitely revolutionized football in terms of the dual threat quarterback position, and maybe the Falcons saw that, and that's why after they traded Matt Ryan, they went out and they got Marcus Mariota,
great transition,
former 2nd overall pick out of Oregon. He's now reuniting with Arthur Smith, who's the Atlanta Falcons head coach, and who coached Mariota from 2015 to 2019 in Tennessee. Now, I want to get your thoughts on this Marcus Mariota signing. Do you think he's going to revive his career in Atlanta? Is this the perfect stop for him? What do you think? I see you make a face, and I already know by that, you're not a huge Atlanta fan. The slander to Matt Ryan.
Oh my God.
I kind of already sense it. So go ahead.
You're making it seem like I'm a Matt Ryan hater.
Go talk miserable about Mariota and how he won't come back now.
Is better. Anyhow, Marcus Mariota, I think this is a pretty good landing spot for him. He's a player that I didn't know was ever going to get a consistent starting job. I thought possibly he could compete for a quarterback position, but it seems like the Falcons are pretty content with him being their day one starter. And I don't think that's the worst move for the Falcons. And we just went on this tangent about the Colts and these middling teams. And I think this Falcons offseason, I know if you're a Falcons fan, it might be upsetting because 1, you lost out on Deshaun Watson. And 2, you traded Matt Ryan, who's been a Hall of Famer, one of the best Falcons to ever live. He's a legend. He's going to be, inducted into the Ring of Honor and all of that. But I think in totality, this Falcons offseason, they did their best, right? And the first thing they did was try to upgrade at quarterback and make a significant upgrade at quarterback, not go from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. They tried to go from Matt Ryan to Deshaun Watson, who has top 5 upside when he's on the field. Top one. Yeah, he could be. I know. Thank you
very much. I got some serious slander for saying that.
You got slandered. With everything goes right, Deshaun could have the best quarterback season in the NFL. It's not crazy. But I think, instead of getting Deshaun, right, and Falcons fan, you should be upset because it seemed like you had that in the bag. It seemed like he was the favorite for, it's probably only like 24 hours or so before everything kind of turned on its head. But even still, you have to admire the front office and ownership saying, hey, we might not have the perfect team right now, but if we get Deshaun Watson, we have an elite quarterback. There was rumors out there saying that Jarvis and AJ Green and Fournette were all ready to go and sign. And it kind of gave me Eagles dream team vibes with kind of the older players. But regardless, I think that was a good first step in trying to upgrade quarterback because the NFC is so weak. The NFC South outside of the Bucs, it's really a mess right now, especially at quarterback. And they probably would have made the playoffs, especially if they get Deshaun Watson. Instead, you don't get him. You know, in the free agency, you lost Lua Khan. I personally probably wouldn't have paid him $15 million for a middle linebacker, so I don't hate that.
He's not even good.
Lost Russell Gage to Tampa Bay, who was your leading wide receiver. Kyle Pitts had more yards. Then you brought in Mariota, Casey Hayward, re-signed Cordell Patterson, which are all decent moves. I think Mariota, he's going to keep you respectable to an extent. I think you're going to lose a lot of games. It wouldn't surprise me if they have a top 5 pick next year, just because of, if you look at the talent around the rest of the NFL, I don't see the Falcons really competing, even in a bad NFC South. They still, him and Darnold are probably about on the same level. I'd probably take Mariota just because he has some more rushing ability, and he has shown at least some progress at his time in the Raiders, even though it was only
Mariota's
one game
better
than Darnold. Yeah. I'm not gonna argue, but I don't exactly hate the Falcons offseason because they're showing an obvious path right now. They traded Matt Ryan. They're saying we're going to go into a rebuild. And I would rather have a clear path as a fan or just, when I'm rooting for a team, I want to know what we're doing. And the Falcons seem to clearly be going towards a rebuild, trying to get a quarterback in 2023. The 2023 quarterback class looks a lot better than the 2022 one. They have the 8th overall pick. Personally, I'm not reaching on to Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett, whoever your quarterback one is. I think they desperately need to go with wide receiver. Garrett Wilson is someone who is a very easy comp to Calvin Ridley. He's someone who has not the most physically intimidating stature, but someone who's going to get open. He has great hands, great body control. He's fast as hell too. And then going into 2023, you could have a receiving core of Calvin Ridley, potentially say they get a top 5 pick and they could get a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, and you drafted Garrett Wilson and a Kyle Pitts. Now all of a sudden your offense is looking great. Cordell Patterson, who had his first really breakout season in his 10, 11 years in the NFL, if he could be able to replicate that, even though he's entering his early 30s. So I think for Atlanta, while this offseason didn't go exactly as planned, at the end of the day, you have a clear path. You understand that you're not going to compete this year, but in 2023, when the quarterbacks are a lot better, now you could go and get a franchise guy, build an offense around him, and then by then, Tom Brady is going to be gone, and the NFC South is wide open.
This move isn't overly ideal. I feel as if the main question was here, we're talking about Mariota, but ultimately we're talking about the Falcons and their rebuild. Their rebuild is going to officially start at the end of this season. For me, if you are a team that right now we're looking on paper and talent-wise is definitely at the one of the worst talented teams on paper in the NFL right now. I'm looking at a team that does not have a true wide receiver one with Calvin Ridley being out for this season with his suspension. I'm looking at a defense that was bottom 3 in both points and yards last season. One of the worst offensive lines in the league, excuse me. I'm not high on this Falcons team, and for valid reason. I feel as if they're one of these teams that, similar to last year, where they were not a horrible team, they weren't a great team, they weren't a good team, they were a mediocre middle of the pack 7-9 squad, and they're not in a position to have a fantastic draft pick, but they're not in a position to have a mediocre, a bad draft pick. There's no bad draft pick in the first round, I guess, but in the back half, from the 20s to 30s, if you're one of these teams that's going to continue to ride the line of mediocrity, then I'll start to call this rebuild a failure. Is this off to a bad start? You traded Matt Ryan, and at this point in time, that's his value. He's a 3rd-round pick. He hasn't been that 1st-round pick in a few years, respectfully. No. Respectfully. 1st-round pick?
Can't agree.
I'm saying right now, Matt Ryan's not worth a 1st-round pick. 36 years old, turning 37 this season. He
was big cap it.
I say that the Falcons came on record and they were trying to say that they just wanted to do what was best for Matt Ryan. And I can respect that as a franchise. You want to put your quarterback in a position where he is happiest. He did everything for the city of Atlanta. You let him move on gracefully and respectfully. I'm cool with that. And a 3rd-round pick, maybe you could have gotten a 2nd-round pick. I don't see a 1st-round pick being in a possibility, excuse me. But I'm looking at this team. If you go out this season and you perform on a mediocre basis, then I'll start to say that this was a failure. But with the roster that they have currently, it is not irrational of me to say that they could have a top 3 pick. Talent-wise, they don't have any of it outside of Kyle Pitts. Marcus Mariota, he had a solid sophomore season, but outside of that, he's been nothing short of disappointing. And I just look at this Atlanta roster, and I just don't see anything that makes me feel really good about it.
And one thing to add, in 2023, the Matt Ryan, they have a $40 million dead cap hit this year, but next year it's off the books, and they're projected to have $100 million cap space. So they could have potentially a top 3 pick, plus all the money in the world if you get a franchise quarterback to build around him and build up the defense.
Everything starts next season. We can't look at it.
It starts with having a bad season this year.
100%. 100% agree.
I'm happy for Marcus Mariota getting a second chance in the NFL. I think the Atlanta Falcons just gained a huge audience in Hawaii. And they're going to sell a bunch of jerseys over there as well.
Man, you know how to talk about anything. I respect it.
Marcus Mariota, I feel like, to a degree, hasn't gotten the fairest shake in the NFL just because he was drafted into a situation in Tennessee that the offense never really fit who he was. They try to turn him into a drop-back quarterback instead of making him a dual threat and running a lot of RPOs and a wildcat, stuff that he did in college. And he wasn't a very collegey offense, but now in the NFL we're seeing more of that. The Ravens accommodated Lamar Jackson when he was drafted. They switched the offense completely from Joe Flacco to Lamar. You saw a lot of wildcat. You saw Lamar being used in that way. I don't think Mariota was ever used in that way. And a large dose of the offense was never geared towards making him successful. But that being said, I think he is a bottom-tier quarterback. He does offer some athleticism. I think that Atlanta Falcons fans will at least, there'll be a couple games a year where you'll tune in and you'll be like, this is an exciting game, and Mariota's running around everywhere and making some nice passes. But the bottom line is that he lost his job in Tennessee. He threw 7 touchdowns to 2 picks, and he lost his job because he was 2-4. He only completed 59% of his passes. He lost to Jacksonville on Thursday Night Football. Ryan Tannehill came in, and the rest was history. I think this is fascinating, and we'll get into this after as well. The NFC South now has 2 starting quarterbacks that were in the same draft class that went right next to each other. The Atlanta Falcons are now starting Marcus Mariota. I believe they'll start him. And the Saints just re-signed Jameis Winston. And now we're going to see 2 times a year, Jameis Winston versus Marcus Mariota, the 2015 first overall pick versus the 2015 second overall pick.
That screams
2
Thursday Night
times
Football.
a season.
Screams Thursday Night Football.
That's so true.
It's very marketable, I will admit.
In what world? Maybe in 2017.
But the difference between those 2 quarterbacks, though, is that Marcus Mariota, I don't believe, is actually a starter. I think Jameis Winston is actually a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL and can have real success if surrounded with offensive weapons. I love Jameis.
He was having a decent season. And Mariota, I remember one of those stats I just looked up, his red zone stats. And don't get me wrong, I know you're a big red zone guy. Is the guy wide open, is an easy 2-yard pass. So let me know.
He was mad good in the red zone.
Yeah, he had, in his career, this is in 2017, his last year starting. Mariota completed 64% of his passes in the red zone, 33 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So situationally, and I don't know, I didn't look at all 33 touchdowns. I don't know how wide open they were.
Pretty wide open.
But I mean, those are some really good numbers. So situationally, and he's mobile.
He had a really good sophomore season. After that, he just regressed and never reached that heights that he did that year.
He had a game in the playoffs where he came back versus the Colts.
Didn't he have a game? Was it against the Patriots where he had a really good game? I'm bugging. No, I feel like that was a regular season game.
He came back against the Colts, though.
I don't remember that.
Multiple touchdowns in the playoffs. And I remember he dove into the end zone on a run.
Was that 2017?
It might have been 2017.
He had 4 game-winning drives that year.
Yeah.
It's an interesting signing for them. I don't know about the whole
definitely
Jameis.
It's definitely the best situation just because Arthur Smith is here.
Oh, yeah.
They did upset the Pats. I am thinking right.
And I will say this. I think they have no offensive weapons. They're not going to be a pass-heavy team. I think they're going to be run-oriented, and they have the personnel to do so. You look at the personnel, Matt Hennessy, their center, Caleb McGarry, and Chris Lindstorm.
The only issue is... Sorry, go ahead.
They're all great run blockers.
Yeah.
But they're not good at pass blocking. So I think now that you have those 3, I guess, building blocks in terms of your running game, and then you have Cordell Patterson with Mariota. It's going to be a lot of wildcat and misdirection
I still think they need to bring another running back because while Cordell Patterson was great last year...
Mike Davis.
Okay. I don't know if he could be your workhorse type of guy. He's just a really versatile player who could catch balls out of the backfield and take carries. But I think taking a running back in round 2 or 3 and having someone that could carry the rock, 15 to 20 times a game makes more sense than just putting that all on Patterson.
I feel like right now, Cordero and Mike Davis is fine. I feel like you need to address this wide receiver room. You can't have Zacchaeus and Frank Darby being your number 1 and number 2 this season and not address it. Calvin Ridley will come back next year for sure, but even still, that wide receiver 2
and who knows
is still
if they're going to trade him, if he's going to keep him. I mean, it seemed like he was 1 foot out the door this, a month ago.
And Kyle Pitts is going to be great. I have no doubt about that. But I would like to have another wide receiver on the outside, given the fact that I can't rely on Ridley right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they will take Garrett Wilson at 8. It feels like the pick.
It seems like a layup to be Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I think it feels like the pick that's going to be destined to happen.
What were you thinking, Drew?
And they need that.
I feel like it's not out of the realm of possibility that they go quarterback. I understand. I agree. I'm not the highest on Malik Willis. I'm not the highest on Kenny Pickett. However, if you're desperate and you need a franchise quarterback, and these guys are, listen, do I think that they could be franchise guys? I don't know at this point in time. You really don't know with guys that are not highly touted whether they can be franchise quarterbacks or not.
So people get quarterback wrong so often.
For sure, but Willis has a crazy arm. Sure, he still needs to learn the intangibles of being a quarterback in terms of reading defenses, understanding the meticulous things of being a quarterback. But if you need a quarterback in the NFL, sometimes you just have to go out and do it. So,
and worst case scenario is, I mean, Malik Willis isn't going to start week 1. I think we could all
100%.
basically guarantee that. And say, for example, they draft Malik Willis, and 12 games in, they're like, okay, let's give him the last 5. If he looks terrible, chances are you're going to have another top 5 pick. And you could just pull a Josh Rosen. You could trade Malik Willis or even keep him and have a top 5 pick and get another quarterback. I think at this point, it's not the end of the world if you go back-to-back quarterbacks in the first round, because once you get that franchise guy, no one's going to care about the guy you missed on.
The one thing I love about Atlanta is I think they probably have one of the better cornerback duos in the NFL with A.J. Terrell and Casey Hayward. Casey Hayward is older.
I was going to say, it's a weird signing for them that they're going towards a rebuild, want to be younger, and they bring in a 30-year-old Casey Hayward.
Casey Hayward is older, so that's probably not going to be a duo that's going to last a long time. But maybe the Atlanta Falcons may want to go Sauce if he's there at 8 and now pair him up with A.J. Terrell.
That would be great. I feel like that's just investing a ton in corner when you have so many other needs.
At 8, I'm blanking on who it was. No, I'm thinking of Stingley being there, but Thibodeau is going to be gone top 5 probably. Because if Thibodeau's there at 8, I feel like that's the pick. Yeah. That's the pick because they need a pass rusher, a legit one at least.
They need.
You take Kayvon over Garrett Wilson. I feel like they
probably
need a
not.
Probably
not.
I would take Wilson.
They do need a receiver desperately.
I mean, yeah, they need a ton, but at least
they do need a ton. They're one of these teams right now that any position they draft, maybe outside a corner, in my opinion, I feel like Casey Hayward is older, but AJ Terrell is one of those that I can look at and think I'm fine for a few years. Who was that
before the podcast, before we started recording? You told me who was going to win Comeback Player of the Year. It was between Marcus Mariota and Sam Darnold.
Oh, I said that?
Yeah.
I think I have my money on Mariota.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm done putting any egg in Sam Darnold's basket. I am so over it.
I respect that.
You know, I thought
you don't have any belief in Sam anymore?
Believe it or not, I don't. I think his time as a potential franchise quarterback has passed him. I wish him the best. Seemed like a really good guy.
Did you believe in him last season?
Yeah, I mean, to start the season, he looked really good. In that first month or so, CMC went down, and that was it. He looked like Jet Sam Darnold for most of his career.
Unfortunate. Well, he's nothing like this next guy we're going to talk about, Jameis Winston. Because Jameis Winston's a Pro Bowl quarterback, and the Saints realized just how great Jameis was, and that's why they brought him back and they re-signed him to a 2-year contract worth up to $28 million. There are incentives in his contract. He could make up to $16 million more for each playoff win in which Winston plays at least 50% of snaps. He gets $500,000, up to $2 million per year. For taking at least 70% of the snaps and having the team make the playoffs, he gets $500,000 per year. If he has a passer rating of 93 or more and the team makes the playoffs, he gets another $1 million. If he completes at least 65% of his passes and the team makes the playoffs, he gets another $500,000 per year. If he takes at least 70% of the snaps and the team finishes in the top 10 in total offense, he receives another $500K bonus per year. And he also gets $500,000 in either or both years for making it to the Pro Bowl, $1.5 million for being the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year in either or both years, and $1.5 million for winning the Super Bowl MVP award in either or both years. So there are a lot of incentives in play for Jameis Winston's contract. He can make up to $16 million more now. what are your expectations for Jameis Winston? Will he reach any of these bonuses?
Dude, Jameis ate last season. He low-key
stretch.
In 7 games, averaged 2 touchdowns a game, only threw 3 INTs on the year.
He had a ridiculous, unsustainable touchdown percentage that is not going to happen again.
Give him some respect.
Bro, he had an 8.7% touchdown percentage. That's 2% higher than the leader of this past season.
I'm not going to say that
that's
you're wrong.
That's because
he had a 5 touchdown game week 1, I think.
Did he throw 5 touchdowns against the Packers?
Week 1, he had 5 touchdowns, I'm pretty sure.
You're right, but that's also because the offense was very dink and dunky because they didn't have any receivers.
I was going to say Michael Thomas is coming back.
Fair.
And listen, a lot of Jameis' success this season is going to be predicated on whether Michael Thomas is back on the field or not. I do believe that Michael Thomas is going to play.
Jameis is a franchise quarterback.
Say that again?
He's a franchise quarterback. Jameis Winston is a franchise quarterback.
I, believe it or not, don't completely disagree.
We must have different definitions of franchise quarterback.
Franchise quarterback is a strong word, yes.
Franchise quarterback, you need to be like a top 12 quarterback.
But think about it like this.
Jameis can be a top 12
Think about this contract.
Has he ever been a top 12 quarterback?
No.
Okay.
Think about how friendly
this is like your 6th.
Think about how friendly this contract is to the team, right? This was extremely beneficial to the Saints. Now, let's say Michael Thomas comes back. Alvin Kamara is still Alvin Kamara. His situation right now is still pending. I don't know what's going to go on with that, whether he's going to get suspended or not.
Yeah, for the Pro Bowl
that's
thing,
a big TBD. But I still have my concerns about their wide receiver too. Their tight end situation is still up in the air. Their offensive line just took a hit with Teron Armstead leaving the Saints organization. But even still, it's still a decent offensive line. Defensively, they've been great for a number of years. They just promoted their defensive coordinator to their head coach, correct?
Dennis Allen, yep.
Correct. And I am under the belief that Jameis will be all right. He was really good with options that were not great whatsoever. Who was the number 1 last season? Marquez Callaway,
Traquan Smith,
and Traquan Smith. Yes, if MT is on the field, I'm excited for Jameis Winston. Just Jameis Winston. I'm still not fully in on the Saints and what they have going on. You lose Sean Payton, automatically your offense is taking a hit. One of the more brilliant offensive play callers in the league. I have to give him that respect for sure. But ultimately, it is dependent on MT. If MT's not on the field, and you can't count on another guy on that offense, at least on the wide receiver side of things, I can't be behind this team or Jameis Winston. And they're another team where I'm not going to say similarly like the Falcons because the Saints have more talent than the Falcons do. But it's going to get to a point where you're floating around mediocrity, and it's not going to be beneficial to your roster. It's either you want to really try and compete for the playoffs, or I'm one of the bottom teams of the league, and I'm trying to have a great draft pick. I understand that you have a lot of money invested into this Saints organization. And understandably so, you guys were a really relevant team who had a strong chance to compete for a championship. But at this point in time, you have no reliable option at the wide receiver position if Michael Thomas is not healthy and playing for you guys. Defensively, I like where things are at. You can look at what they've done the past 2 seasons and expect them to not at least be a relevant defense. It's going to count on whether their offense is going to step up to the plate. And I do have my concerns. But so long as MT's on the field, I'm very confident with I am very confident with Jameis being my quarterback, especially with that contract.
In a weak NFC, if they could get a legit wide receiver too, someone who could come in and be a top 20-ish wide receiver, it wouldn't shock me if they make the playoffs. Treylon Burks is someone that will probably be there where they pick the late teens, I want to say, around there, right? So if they could get a wide receiver too, someone who's competent, better than Traquan Smith or Marquez Callaway, and you have Michael Thomas with AK in the backfield, because I don't think Kamara is going to get suspended if he even does at all more than like a couple games.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. Then you have a chance just because of how weak the NFC is, and that's why I don't mind this signing at all. And like the Falcons, they tried to upgrade at quarterback. They were in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, and once they found out that they weren't going to be able to get him, they pivoted to Jameis Winston. Where are they picking?
I can't find it. I'm so stupid.
And they pivoted to Jameis. And the contract isn't bad. It's 2 years, $28 million, $21 million guaranteed. And the way Jameis played last year, I mean, he wasn't great. I know you look at the touchdowns and it's ridiculous. He's not going to have that many touchdowns again.
Just keep talking.
I feel like you keep looking up and I'm thinking you're going to say where it is.
But I don't.
But yeah, his touchdown percentage last year was just so high that I don't expect it to be anywhere near that, right? He had 5 touchdowns on 20 attempts week 1, which is just absolutely out of this world. That's 20% of your throws you're throwing a touchdown. But to his credit, he didn't have any weapons really outside of Kamara, right? You're looking at Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith.
They have the 18th pick.
I should have said it. I wasn't sure. It said Steelers. I'm just like, this doesn't sound right.
Yeah,
but
so at 18, you're going to have a pick of still one of the top probably 5 wide receivers that can make a big impact on your team.
Jameson Williams, maybe.
Possibly Williams. But if you look at in terms of his yardage, I mean, he was averaging like 170 yards per game. He had one game over 230 yards, and that's okay because the weapons weren't there. They were more focused on feeding through AK and, have him being the primary focus of this offense. And I think that's what they should do. While Jameis has had good years in the past statistically, he's a volume guy. That's why he's having these numbers. I don't look at Jameis as a franchise quarterback. I don't think the Saints, if they thought he was a franchise quarterback, they're giving him more than 2 years, $28 million.
You don't think he can be Kirk Cousins on that tier?
No.
I think he can be.
I don't.
He needs the weapons first. I can't be overly confident on Winston when he doesn't have the weapons.
When he had the weapons in Tampa Bay, threw 30 interceptions.
He also got LASIK eye surgery and was 14-3.
And Bruce Arians' offense, though, first year.
Even still, I don't think the Saints are looking at Jameis as the money they gave him, 2 years, $28 million, tells me he's not the franchise guy. He's someone as a stopgap.
This is actually an all Madden type stat line. 5,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, 30 interceptions.
Yeah,
that's something like you do in a Madden franchise.
That's probably like what you looked like with Zach Wilson, this pick a side league, right?
Yeah. I didn't throw for 5,000 yards, though. Jameis did better.
Yeah, and he had great weapons. Mike Evans, Godwin. He had arguably the best duo in the league, and he still threw 30 interceptions. But yes, Bruce Arians' offense is a bit difficult, but we still don't.
He made the Pro Bowl in Tampa Bay his rookie year.
Nice. So did Mitch.
Or his second season, I believe.
And so did Mac Jones.
28-18 is not a bad season.
It's not, but I don't see him in the Kirk Cousins tier.
I think he can get there.
He's closer to the Carson Wentz tier.
That's not. I mean, Carson Wentz was at a point was viewed as a franchise quarterback.
Yes, but I think Carson Wentz's high was higher than Jameis Winston's high.
Yeah, but now Wentz isn't viewed as a franchise.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This
So
version,
I like
this version
Jameis
of
more than
Wentz.
Wentz, though.
Oof. I can't
I will
agree.
take Wentz.
I like
I'll
Jameis
take
more
Wentz.
than Wentz.
I'll take Wentz.
Jameis
I'm not going
an
to fight
energy
crazy
to him.
over it. He does.
He has an energy to him
In
that
the
you just kind of
Ws
just want to
and-
shake his hand.
Can I tell you
You
guys
love shaking
something?
guys' hands.
When I was in the bathroom,
Did you not wash your hands?
no, I did wash my hands, but I think I washed my hands with some kind of spray that was not soap.
Spray?
I think it might be like air freshener, if I'm being
What's
honest.
wrong with you?
Dude, I don't. It's bothering me. I feel
How
like my
did you just
skin's
figure this
breaking
out
out. No, well, my hands are burning. So
Oh my
like,
God. Bro, how did you confuse hairspray?
well, it was just there, and I just started using it, and I washed.
Do you know what soap looks like? My brother?
Yes, but there's some soap that is just,
How did it feel like?
Well, it felt fine. It felt like regular.
Did it
I
like
was
foam
regularly
up
washing
when
my
you
hands.
wash your hands?
Of course, yes. But I don't know. It's starting to
time?
burn my hands. Yes.
My God.
And I'm touching my face, and then my face is hurting. I'm just like, this can't be soap. It can't be.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking that if my life was on the line and in order to save it, Drew had to search something up for me,
So
I'd
mean.
probably die.
That's so mean. That's so mean, but weirdly true.
You looked at me like twice. That's why I was
Dude,
like,
I had it for a sec. I'm like, all right, 18, but then it said Steelers. I'm just like, what? This can't be true.
okay.
Should've said it.
To just
No, never mind. Makes no sense. God.
okay.
Jameis had a 102.8 passer rating, though.
this past season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the
but he
Saints
also didn't throw it
defense.
a lot.
I think the Saints defense will still be great.
I think so too.
I
Who's
think
their,
it's gonna
who's
be
their
great
OC?
next year.
Do we know?
I don't know.
I'll
who
look it
their
up right
OC is
now.
gonna
That's
be.
I got
also,
this, bro,
I mean,
alright?
going from Sean Payton to whoever the OC is. I don't care. It's obviously gonna be a huge downgrade.
Pete
from Sean
Carmichael.
They're gonna run the same
Carmichael.
offense.
Payton. Okay, but still, Sean Payton. It could be the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
offense.
you're right. You're right.
It's
The play
different.
calling, yeah, for sure.
I don't think Jameis is a franchise guy. This is a stopgap to me. He's better than Marcus Mariota. He's a step up, but I also think the Saints roster as a whole is more prepared for Jameis and a better quarterback because if things go the right way, they could win 7, 8, 9 games and sneak into the playoffs. That wouldn't shock me. But similar to the Colts, they're going to be probably a first-round exit because they'll be a wild card team. They'll get faced with the Rams, Packers, Bucks, whoever it might be. And
Arizona.
They're going to get smoked. Or the 49ers. Like,
They
they're
probably
going
could
to
beat
smoke.
Arizona. I don't know.
No way.
Can you stop it?
If they have the weapons,
Stop being
bro,
agenda
MT and a
based.
second option.
I don't think, on one hand, like, sure, if you want to get Jameis because the NFC is weak and maybe you could sneak in, but then I'm being contradictory because I think the Colts are the same way where, like, maybe you should look towards getting that next franchise guy. And this is a draft where they could possibly get a quarterback in those late teens and maybe a guy,
You think they
whoever it
draft
might
one?
be. I think it's unlikely. I think this contract tells me that they want Jameis for the next 2 seasons and then figure it out in 2024. Maybe things go wrong in 2023. They have a top 10 pick. This draft, I think they have to go wide receiver because you can't rely on Michael Thomas. And even if Michael Thomas comes back, best case scenario, he's great. You still need a wide receiver too. So if you're able to get regular MT back, plus now you have, a guy top 3, in this draft class, like a top 3 wide receiver in this draft class, whether it's a London, Burks, Wilson, whoever it might be, Jameson Williams. Now you have a legit duo wide receiver that you haven't had since the Marquise Colston days, right? So you're going to have the offense there. And then once Jameis' contract ends, he's going to be able to support these guys. Jameis is a plus quarterback. Like I said, I don't think he's a franchise guy, but then they'll have at least the opportunity to surround a rookie or young quarterback with weapons.
Jameis, former first overall pick. Got a second chance with the Saints. You can say he made the most of it. Baker Mayfield right now is looking for his second chance. First overall pick in 2018.
I'm so happy about this topic.
Baker Mayfield, we didn't know they were in on Deshaun Watson, right? The Browns, it kind of last minute, they were like, hey, Deshaun, we're going to give you everything you want, all the money, all the guarantees. Deshaun's like, you know what, I'm going to Cleveland. Now that he's on the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield was like, the Colts, I want to go there. And the Colts said, no, we're going to get Matt Ryan. So now Baker Mayfield's kind of left in dust. He's left trying to hitchhike somewhere. He doesn't know where to go. So we're going to predict a team that we think is going to ultimately get Baker Mayfield. So I'll start with you, Drew. Predict Baker Mayfield's next team.
Real quick before you go, there are rumors out there that the Browns might get Brock Osweiler, however you're gonna want to say it. Osweiler, yeah, but like a D at the end, like they're gonna, like how the Broncos
they're gonna Brock Osweiler him.
Yes, like the Broncos had to attach a pick to get off his contract. I've seen some rumors saying that the Browns might need to attach a pick to get off Baker.
But what's his contract?
It's just a
It's not. He's a $19 million cap hit this year, 5th-year option.
Okay, all right. So with teams right now in the NFL that need a quarterback, let's be real. How many are there? Maybe 3. You have the Saints, you have the Panthers, and you have Seattle.
The Giants.
No, they don't need a quarterback. And if that's your pick, you need to go back to the drawing boards, my friend.
They got Tyrod too.
They did get Tyrod, so that's
come
not
on.
a thing.
I know, but you're saying they don't need a quarterback because they have Daniel Jones, though.
Yeah, and that's a lock.
A lock?
He's fine.
He's closer to Drew Lock than anything.
You better watch your mouth, all right? Because he's going to outperform Zach Wilson this season.
God, you've been on crack for a lot of these takes.
How?
He's going to be better than Zach Wilson?
He is.
Daniel Jones?
Yes.
The New York Giants, Daniel Jones.
Yeah, look at his rookie season. He leaps and bounds better than Zach Wilson. 4 years ago? All right, regardless of that, even last year, he showed more flashes than Zach Wilson did. Let's be real.
Not in the last 5 games.
Post-injury,
it's different.
Now, agreed. He was really good these last 5 games.
Zach had great defense he had to play the first 5 weeks. And LaFleur didn't really get into his zone.
Yeah, LaFleur took a little bit too long for me to...
Once he got up in the booth, everything changed.
That's true. God,
with
man,
LaFleur.
I'm really at a loss right now. My feng shui is off with this hand sanitizer / whatever the hell it is. But the next team that I believe Baker Mayfield will play for is Seattle Seahawks. Right now, for me, with the money that they have available, it makes the most sense for them to take this cap on top of the fact that they have the best situation out of the teams that do need a quarterback in terms for Baker to succeed. Their offensive line is not great, and it'll be the first time that Baker Mayfield's playing behind an offensive line that is not great. But you have DK Metcalf, you have Tyler Lockett, you still have you still have Chris Carson. Is Rashad Penny
They re-signed Penny to a 1-year deal. I can't buy into Carson with his neck injuries.
Just fine.
I think Penny's gonna be the lead guy.
I don't disagree with that. Either way you shake it, though. Let's say Chris Carson's healthy. He's shown that when he's on the field, he's more than serviceable. Rashad Penny last season when he came on and when Rashad Penny came in and took over that backfield, he was fantastic. If there's a situation for him to come in and be successful, it's got to be the Seahawks. Which other one are we looking at that he's going to do anything of relevance? I'm not looking at the Panthers as a destination for him to do well in.
The Panthers and the Baker have mutual disinterest.
Which is hilarious to me. Mutual disinterest.
That's the first time I've ever heard that report ever in all of sports.
But it's just speaking volumes to just how mediocre Baker really is. Teams are realizing now this is not a guy that we can look at and really count on to be our guy. It's nothing against him personally. You just look at...
It's not his production that's the issue.
You think it's his...
Yes.
Yeah?
Without a doubt.
That's crazy, man. I mean, like, it goes hand in hand to a degree because if you were this all-world talent, but yet you ran your mouth 24/7, no one is even looking at it until that moment you give them the chance to really say... all right, your mouth is an issue because you're not producing for us.
This is Baker's problem. This is the 40-minute debate we got into.
Yeah, it's true. And listen, I don't overly disagree. I don't, because we were on the same side here in the sense of that comment, that the fact that he dropped that whole statement before he was actually released and or traded was pretty quick trigger, unnecessary, soft in my words. I didn't like the comment, but agree to disagree. I'm looking at the Seahawks. There's no other team right now that he could go to and have any type of success that he would have on the Seahawks. They have the best weapons for him to succeed. Their offensive line is not the greatest. However, I'm not looking at the Panthers as a great option in terms of...
Panthers doesn't happen.
No, exactly. A mutual disinterest. And then, like I said, what was it? The Saints.
Oh.
The Saints right now, they just signed Jameis Winston, and that's not an option.
Quick question for you, because maybe this will lead into your monologue. So Baker, right? He's an average quarterback, I'd say. He averaged about 235 yards per game. His touchdown interception ratio is actually pretty good, 92 to 56. Completes 62% of his passes, passer rating of 88. Won Rookie of the Year. He won a playoff game, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. So why, Joel Moran? Do you think these teams are not interested in Baker Mayfield?
Well, the biggest reason is timing.
Oh, okay.
I think it's unfortunate that every single team filled their quarterback need before Baker was out on the open market for, via trade. This Deshaun Watson thing lingered on. The Browns got him. What openings were there?
Would you say Baker is an upgrade over Marcus Mariota?
I think he is.
Do you think he's an upgrade over Drew Lock?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think he's an upgrade over Daniel Jones?
No.
I think for sure.
Okay. For sure is insanity.
Those are 3 landing spots, and it seems like none of these guys are that interested.
Let me go in depth on it.
Please.
For example, the teams that didn't have quarterbacks this offseason, I'm looking at the Indianapolis Colts. The reason why Matt Ryan ultimately wanted out of Atlanta was because the Falcons were pursuing Deshaun Watson. They were most likely going to land Baker Mayfield. You look at the Denver Broncos, they landed Russell Wilson. You look at Washington, they landed Carson Wentz. You look at the Saints, they re-signed Jameis Winston on a cheaper deal than what Baker would have gotten. He knows the offense. It makes sense. The Detroit Lions already have Jared Goff, so they don't need a quarterback right now. The Carolina Panthers, they already have a quarterback within that same draft class. That bringing in the number one overall pick of that same draft class is kind of a laughing stock and is going to be viewed as such.
He's a pretty significant upgrade over Darnold.
And the Texans, they like Davis Mills, and that's why they're not. That's why they're not moving off from it. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, they got Mitch Trubisky very early in the process.
You think Baker or Mitch? Who are you taking?
Baker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't trade in division, so it's.
You don't know that. If they don't think Baker's that good, they would trade in division.
From what you're telling me, the only team that makes sense is Seattle.
Right now, there are 2 teams that make sense. But to answer your question, I think timing has a big thing to do with it. Most quarterback vacancies were filled by the time that Baker Mayfield was available via trade. And it doesn't help that...
Even still, though, once Deshaun was traded, the Falcons and Saints hadn't got their guys yet. They could have went and got Baker if they wanted to. They pivoted to Marcus Mariota and Jameis.
But the Saints...
And I don't disagree with... Yeah, the Saints
But the Saints already were committed to Jameis had they not landed Deshaun Watson. And Marcus Mariota, the familiarity with Arthur Smith, it makes sense as to why he would go there.
I think you take the more talented guy over who has familiarity in the offense.
And you can argue Marcus Mariota has talent. He just really hasn't put it together in the NFL so far.
Yeah, I mean,
last time Arthur Smith was the OC for Mariota, he had 7 touchdowns and 2 picks to start the year off in 6 games, which isn't tremendous, but it was a pretty good start.
Lost his job.
What I'm saying is that I think timing has a lot to do with it. And that's why I don't think Baker is really right now. He's kind of on the outside looking in. And not only that, but right now his value, his stock is at an all-time low. Let's just look at the past year and what's happened with Baker Mayfield. He injures his labrum in week 2. He plays through it the entire season, which causes numbers in production to go down. Then you get into this fiasco with Odell Beckham. He leaves you and wins a Super Bowl. That doesn't look good for Baker. So this season, this couldn't have been a worse year for Baker Mayfield, and this is why his stock is at an all-time low. It's so low that the Browns have to attach a pick now for a team to take on Baker Mayfield. With that being said, there are 2 teams that I think are realistic possibilities for Baker to go to, And really, one of these teams, I don't think it's going to happen. The first one is the Giants. It's not going to happen. They don't have cap space to take on Baker's contract. I don't think they want to get into that. I don't think the New York market fits him either. I think it's going to be a disaster. I would be shocked if Baker Mayfield is not on the Seattle Seahawks. I think he's going to be on the Seahawks by week 1. I don't think they're sold on Drew Lock.
I don't know.
I will say this. Don't sleep on Matt Corral to the Seahawks. Pete Carroll, they've been seen together, and it looks like he really enjoys his company. So maybe Matt Corral is going to be there. Pete Carroll, from his press conferences when he introduced Drew Lock and talked about the move, the Russell Wilson trade, said he's going to run the football, play great defense, and win that way, manage the game. He just needs a quarterback to manage the game. That's what Baker Mayfield is. The Seahawks, Baker Mayfield, Rashad Penny, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant. The offensive line isn't as bad as people think. If they don't get Dwayne Brown back, okay, it's going to be pretty bad, especially on the tackles. But Damian Lewis is a good guard. Gabe Jackson. They have at least some pieces on the offensive line. I think he's ultimately going to be a Seattle Seahawk, and I even tweeted this. It wouldn't surprise me if they make a run at the playoffs. And people say, yeah, the NFC West is super tough. I don't know how much worse Seattle is than Arizona, to be frank with you.
A lot, because they don't have a quarterback.
If Baker's there, they have a quarterback.
Baker is so much worse than Kyler Murray.
Can you stop with this Arizona hate, man? Like, it's unnecessary.
I'm not high on Arizona. They just lost Chandler Jones. That's a big-time loss.
It is.
They don't have corners. Their
Marcus
linebackers
Golden was really good last season. J.J. Watt,
maybe
if he's
Isaiah
healthy,
Simmons
really
could
solid.
step up.
That's
their
a fact,
linebackers are
if.
young but have been super bad to this point. Isaiah Simmons
he hasn't been super bad. Disappointing, though.
Zaven Collins, it was horrible last year. And Isaiah Simmons has not lived up to his top 10 pick.
I feel like Zaven Collins didn't get a lot of burn, though.
He did.
Did he?
Yeah, he was bad.
I feel like he didn't play enough.
He was bad. He was bad.
All right, sorry, you're done?
Yeah, and I think that the Seahawks, I don't think their defense is as bad as people think it is. They have, I think Jamal Adams is actually going to have a better year than people expect next year. Just because I think he's been tasked with too much responsibility.
He's a box safety
in that scheme. That's what you want to say. That's what you want to call it. Okay, whatever.
That's where he thrives, I should say.
I think Jamal Adams is a big-time player, and he usually, last year he didn't have the best year, especially in coverage. I think he's going to fix that up. But he's
struggled in coverage for years.
I think the Seahawks, if they get Baker Mayfield, can be vying for a playoff spot. Even if you think the Niners, Rams, and Arizona are better than them, which for sure the Rams and 49ers are, the NFC, like we've all said, is not a very tough conference. It's an easy conference. We know there's going to be one team in the NFC East that makes it, probably 3 in the NFC West. That's 4 teams. You got 1 in the NFC North, maybe 2 if the Vikings surprise us, and we know Aaron Rodgers, you can never count him out. And then you have the NFC South. Only one team's going to make it there. The Seahawks could be in the hunt for a playoff spot next season if they get Baker Mayfield.
I'll be honest, Zaven Collins barely played last year. He had like 200 snaps on defense.
He did for a reason, though.
I know. I'm just saying he's young. He's a former first-round pick. I'm not writing him off. Or he's first-round pick last year.
No, I'm not writing him off, but there was a reason he didn't play a lot.
That's true. I just don't think they really like put him in positions to succeed more than anything. But moving on to Baker, I think it's kind of funny though, because we got into this long-winded debate last week about Baker, his maturity, Cam against Kyler. They kind of did the same thing, but Kyler's amazing, Baker's not. And while you're right, the timing of it isn't great. You know, a lot of the positions were filled. I still think teams around the league, if they could upgrade at quarterback, they're going to do it. And even though Baker isn't this uber talented guy, he's a lot more talented than Marcus Mariota, than Daniel Jones, definitely than Drew Lock. There's positions for Baker to be able to go and be an upgrade at quarterback. And teams, regardless of what you think of Baker, they're going to go and do it if you could upgrade. The issue with Baker is all the off-the-field stuff he brings. That's why teams are not looking to go and trade for him. Now, while Seattle, I think, makes the most sense just because they're the only one with an obvious opening at quarterback. I don't believe into all of the Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll talks so much about a ton of players and always hypes them up and says how great they are. I'm not believing it with Drew Lock. I think if you've seen Drew Lock play over these last few years, there's no way you could look at him and be like, he's our starter week 1. I'm not even bringing anyone in to compete with him, without a doubt. Now, to Seattle's credit, they do have the 9th overall pick now because of Denver, right? That 9th pick,
Correct.
right? I don't think they're going to go quarterback, but at least they could.
They have that option.
They have an option to, at the very least.
They got Geno Smith as their backup.
Yeah, Geno's all right, but I mean, obviously Baker's going to be a much bigger upgrade.
Is he?
One place that we haven't mentioned that I think would be interesting, I think it's a long shot, is Tampa Bay. I think being able to go to Tampa Bay, sit behind Baker or sit behind Tom Brady for a season is kind of similar to what the Saints did. Bringing in Jameis, letting him sit behind Drew Brees for a year before really giving him the reins. Having Baker learn from Brady, being able to take all the off-the-field stuff that really Baker struggled with. I know we have different opinions on that, but I think it's kind of obvious to have the way teams look at Baker and all of the maturity issues he's dealt with over really since he's been a rookie in the NFL. So I think Tampa Bay would be a really interesting spot because you have to think that it's probably Brady's last season. I don't really see him coming back for 2 more after retiring. I think he kind of just wanted to go out on his own, and seeing the wide open NFC, Brady kind of jumped back into the NFL and said we could give it one more run. But I think going to the Bucs is probably the best spot for Baker, being able just to learn, have a great offense, and offensive coach with Bruce Arians. And then if he's able to show enough, maybe Brady misses a game or 2 or preseason, or just maybe he matures in the locker room and impresses coaches. He's a free agent next year in 2023. So they could sign him to a Jameis Winston-like deal, 2 years, $30 million, and say, okay, we're going to give you a chance for this year to be the franchise guy, because Baker has some talent. He's not terrible. He's not Tom Brady by any means. You're going to be downgrading at quarterback, but it's going to be better than any other option that they have. Who was their second-round pick they got last year? Kyle Trask. He can't play. I mean, that's a little rude, but his one game playing, he looked completely lost. I'm sorry, I'm confusing him with Ian Book. But regardless, I think Baker's a clear upgrade over Kyle Trask. So at the very least, you're getting an upgraded backup quarterback if something happens to Brady. And maybe he could be that Jameis Winston-like role for a year or 2 while you try to find that next franchise guy. But I agree. I think at the end of the day, he's going to be a Seattle Seahawk just because that's the only spot remaining.
So in the NFC South, he's the best quarterback in that division if Tom Brady retires.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? You said that you think Seattle with Baker Mayfield can contend for a playoff spot. I'm going to just list you fringe playoff teams. You let me know what you think. The football team. Excuse me, the Commanders now.
I would take the Seahawks over them.
The Vikings.
Vikings over the Seahawks, yeah.
The Saints?
I'm taking the Seahawks.
Eagles.
I'm taking the Seahawks.
I can't agree. I'm going
Depending
Eagles.
on the draft the Eagles have.
I guess that's really the only other fringe team.
Yeah, the NFC is just so
because I would say the Niners. We're taking the Niners.
Taking the Rams.
Cardinals. I'm taking the Cardinals.
I'm taking
I don't
all
care
three
what you
teams over
say.
them, yeah.
Rams, Cowboys, Buccaneers, Packers. That's the obvious ones.
You think Jalen Hurts is better than Baker Mayfield?
I'm taking Hurts.
I'd take Hurts.
I don't think he's better than Baker.
I think the talent is similar, and Hurts is just a far better leader.
The talent is similar?
Yeah.
I don't think Hurts has Baker's arm.
I don't know.
He doesn't, but he's much more mobile.
That's it, though.
Okay. Baker just has a stronger arm.
He's not a better thrower of the football, though. Even accuracy-wise or...
I can't say he's wrong because
we're going into Jalen Hurts' second year starting, so...
Talking about the quarterback position, though.
I understand.
You can get better at throwing the football, but
Sure. You can.
it takes work and time. And listen, Hurts has shown that he's willing to put in the work.
I will take Baker right now. I'm sorry. I'll take Jalen Hurts right now going forward as my quarterback than Baker Mayfield.
I will say I like your Bucks pick for him to go to play there.
That makes just a lot of sense from a leadership perspective, being able to learn behind Brady and have the potential to be a starter next year. I think it makes sense for both sides.
No, for sure.
Are we all pretty much on the same page that we think Baker Mayfield's going to end up on the Seattle Seahawks?
It makes the most sense. There's no situation I look at that allows him to come in and have a better chance of success than the Seahawks right now.
Outside of you think that he can go to Tampa Bay?
I think it's a long shot,
like that.
but I think that's the best for Baker, and I like that for Tampa too.
Yeah, it makes sense because, like I mentioned before, in the NFC South, with the Panthers, with the Falcons, with the Saints,
and the Bucs roster is going to be great for years.
Baker Mayfield would be the best quarterback in that division. He's better than James. He's better than Mariota. He's better than Sam Darnold or Cam Newton. He'd be the best quarterback by far.
I'm a little surprised
in
you're taking
that division.
Baker over Jameis without thinking.
No, I'm not thinking much about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Jameis, but I think Baker's better.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see,
I was kind of expecting
Baker's
you to
kind of
say.
mid.
He's not great, But I mean, yeah.
I feel like we got to give Baker the benefit of the doubt. Like, the only 2 times he's had 4 years in his career so far. 2 of them have been great. 2 of them have been bad. The 2 that have been bad, he was hurt the entire year. The other one, Freddie Kitchens, was his head coach. The 2 of them that he's been good, he was healthy.
He's also been on some stacked teams with great old lines, great running games.
I get it, but even when in 2020 with the Browns, they didn't have great receiving threats. It was Jarvis Landry. That's it.
But they had a great line, great run game, and coach of the year.
Okay, and they were able to win a playoff game.
He could play well in a system.
And they were able to win a playoff game
against a terrible Steelers team. Yes.
Okay, I'll just make it.
They lost to terrible. They weren't terrible.
The second half of the year, that
Correct.
Steelers team was really bad
because they started off 11.
I know, but that second half, that's when Ben just fell apart.
So you can win a playoff game with only having one viable receiving option
if you have a top 5 offensive line and the coach of the year.
And a great defense.
A great running game, too. Well, they didn't have a great defense. The Browns were 20th that year.
And you're playing a bad opponent? Sure. With a 40-year-old Big Ben who couldn't throw more than 10 yards?
Okay. I'm just making sure because, kind of made it seem like it's not possible.
If the Colts get matched up against the Patriots...
I'm not talking about the Colts.
Come on,
what do you think I'm talking about?
If they get matched up against the Patriots and they don't have this explosive offense, but you look at the rest of the AFC, like the AFC's so stacked...
Why do you think I'm talking about the Colts?
AFC, this is the best it's ever been.
Ever.
In the history of football.
I don't know about the history. I don't know. But definitely in my lifetime.
When I couldn't name you the last time we've had like legitimately 8 elite quarterbacks in the AFC.
It's never happened.
8?
No, I'm playing. I don't know. There are a lot of great quarterbacks, and Matt Ryan is definitely in that category.
Maybe 8 elite isn't right. But probably like 6 elite.
No,
and then,
8 great ones.
And then 2 to 3 like really good ones.
Quarterbacks.
Matt Ryan's in that really good.
He's in the great.
You're the one that says that there's only 3 elite quarterbacks in the NFL. So
that's true. But I mean, even still, these guys are on the board. These are my second tier of quarterbacks, like the Lamars, the Burrows. Like they're second tier. Like they're still borderline elite.
But you're right. Baker in an offense, he can run an offense. He can win games.
Yeah.
So I think with Seattle, he can win games.
And he'll be great. Seattle, yeah. I don't know. I think Pete Carroll he's going to be gone after this season.
I mean, he's old as hell.
I think they're going to come in 4th place, and that's going to be it.
I wouldn't be shocked. That's coming for that 3rd place.
Okay, even still.
In the NFC West, that's an achievement.
Is it?
It is.
I mean, the Seahawks.
The 49ers came in 3rd place.
There's no one that cheers 3rd place unless you're in the Olympics.
NFC West, yes. That's a tough division.
I'll tell you what.
You have 7 playoff spots. You have 3 wild cards. It's not the end of the world.
The fact that a full division can make the playoffs is lit.
Might be the AFC West.
It's definitely going to be the AFC West.
Definitely.
On to the next topic, the Cincinnati Bengals. Before the offseason started, we all said they have one need. This is their biggest one. They have to address it. It's the offensive line. They got Ted Karras and Alex Kappa. And when they got those 2 guys, they're like, they upgraded. This is not a great offensive line, but they definitely upgraded. But then the Cowboys released Lyle Collins, and he went on a visit with the Bengals and got ingrained in that Who Dey culture and said, I want to be a Bengal. I was looking at his media presser, and he was like, I want to win championships here.
Collins said that?
Yeah. He's like, he wants to win championships. That's why I came to Cincinnati. And now the new offensive line additions feature Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and Lyle Collins. So what do you think about the Bengals offseason, the improvements they made to their offensive line, their projection going into next season? Because we know the AFC North has now gotten better. Even though they did lose CJ Uzama, they did sign Hayden Hurst, who I think is a good replacement for him.
Definitely.
So what do you think? I'll start with you, Joel.
I like the moves the Bengals made. Upgrading their biggest weakness at offensive line, really across the board, guard, tackle, center. I think overall it was a good offseason for the Bengals. They lost CJ Uzama, brought in Hayden Hurst, so that's, cancels out. Even you could probably make the argument that Hurst is a more athletic tight end. He's a good blocker as well. So the moves overall are good. They're fine. To me, though, the rest of the AFC North just made better moves, right? And I've kind of been on record to be, I don't want to say a Bengals hater, but I don't believe in them going in.
That's what you've been. I'm going to be honest.
That's fine. I haven't. Because I said the Jets
were going to be better than them is nuts.
It is kind of crazy.
It's going to get brought up all season.
That's fine. Crazier things have happened, like the Bengals going to the Super Bowl.
Hey, man. That's facts.
But
someone knew.
When I look, the Bengals 20... What?
Who knew?
Someone.
That the Bengals are going to
Go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, facts. You said that once.
Facts.
But the Bengals 2020 or 2021 season, I mean, they got a little lucky. Can we just say that? They got a little lucky, right? First of all, they had a fourth-place schedule. They had the Ravens fall apart with Lamar's injuries. The Steelers, who Big Ben has been on his last legs for 2 seasons, and the Browns, Baker Mayfield got hurt. And even still, they were a game away from missing the playoffs. Then the first round of the playoffs got matched against the Raiders, who an average team, probably. I mean, they were a playoff
above
team.
average.
You picked them to win.
I did pick them to win, but
So did you.
I know. All right, he's just calling
because I'm a Derek Carr guy, so I was going to pick him. But Burrow's the better quarterback right now. So they beat the Raiders, who aren't the most impressive team. And then the second round, they played the Titans, who, again, were battling injuries with Julio, with Derrick Henry. And, again, probably the weakest 1 seed we've seen in a few years. To their credit, they beat the Chiefs. So I look at this past season as more luck than anything. I don't want to, that sounds kind of disrespectful because they won 10 games. They won the division. They made the Super Bowl. But in terms of the last few years, teams that made the Super Bowl, I kind of look at them as one of the weaker ones. And while they did upgrade the offensive line, I see the Ravens getting back Lamar Jackson, picking up Marcus Williams. I think their O-line's going to be healthy. You get J.K. Dobbins back. I think overall they're just going to be healthier and ended up having a better record than them. The Steelers are kind of still in that whatever tier because they got Mitch Trubisky, who, if you want to call an upgrade from Ben or not, I still don't see them as really competing for this division. And then the Browns, who just got Deshaun Watson. So I really think the Bengals are going to be a third-place team. I think the Ravens and the Browns are going to be over them, depending on what happens with Deshaun Watson. Because if he does get suspended 8 games and the Browns start off 2-5, they have a bye week in there or something like that, it's going to be a bit more difficult for them to come back from it. So the Bengals offseason overall, they did what they had to do in terms of upgrading the offensive line. But I think just the rest of the teams in their division and then the conference as a whole just got so much better. And I look at their past season just being a little bit lucky and not having the most difficult road to the Super Bowl. I think they just overachieved. So going into next season, their offensive line's going to be better, but I think they take a step back and end up being third in the division.
Did this offseason of the Bengals impress me? 100%. The Chargers laid the groundwork or the foundation for teams that have a franchise quarterback and have a bad offensive line. You get your franchise quarterback, and then you do everything you can to fix that offensive line to protect them for the future. This past season, we saw the Bengals go to the Super Bowl, and the reason why they didn't end up ultimately winning the Super Bowl was because their offensive line was horrible. I believe Joe Burrow was sacked 23 times in the playoffs. I believe that's the number off the top of my head. I'm looking at it.
Sacked 11 times in one game.
I'm looking at it from this lens. Joe Burrow showed that with a terrible offensive line, he is good enough to at least be a part of a team that goes to the Super Bowl. And regardless of how you want to say whether he played really good, whether he played elite, whether he got lucky to a degree, I'm looking at it from this sense. Down double digits against the Chiefs to come back in Arrowhead to win that game, I'm giving him a ton of credit for that. He played well in the Super Bowl. I wouldn't say he played great. He played good. I'd give him good. He wasn't great in the Super Bowl against the Rams, but again, he was facing one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. They won the Super Bowl for a reason. The Rams were elite. Against the Titans, he played well, but now you're giving him an offensive line to actually have some time to see Jamar Chase. If he had an offensive line in the Super Bowl and he has a second longer to see Jamar Chase breaking down Jalen Ramsey and having a wide open lane for the touchdown, we're talking about the Bengals being Super Bowl champions.
You think any of these guys are stopping Aaron Donald? No. You don't even have to answer.
Give him a second longer?
Bro, it's
He
Aaron
had
Donald.
no time.
It's Aaron Donald.
All right, yes, you're making a fine point because it's Aaron Donald, other than the fact that he was
yes, the entire game.
Destroyed.
I'm just going to push back on that moment. Because
moment.
It's the best player in football probably making a Super Bowl winning play.
Yes, but a second longer was all it needed. All he needed.
We've seen Aaron Donald destroy the best of the best.
You know what I noticed? I noticed that whenever it's a team you're not so high on, it's all of a sudden lucky.
Me?
Yes.
How's that?
You mentioned Lamar Jackson getting injured. Well, the Bengals faced Lamar healthy, and they torched him.
Yeah.
in the two
Well,
games,
their
in the
secondary
two-
was destroyed too.
In the two game, Marlon Humphrey played in that game, and Jamar Chase had 200 yards on him
Jamar Chase is gonna do Jamar Chase
and
things.
broke tackles with the spin,
See,
and
but
then
that's
just
exactly
took it
my
to the
point.
house.
We're talking about Jalen Ramsey, who again is the best corner in football, and he dusted him. You give Joe Burrow a second longer to maybe not let sit in the pocket.
Listen,
give
if it
him
was anyone but Aaron Donald, I would say you
we're
got it.
talking Jalen Ramsey also.
He understand that, but that's why Aaron Donald's Aaron Donald.
See, I understand that, but a second to not sit in the pocket and oh wow, Jamar's wide open.
A
second to get yourself
you do
out of the
understand
pocket.
a second in the pocket is a
0.5
ton of time.
0.5 seconds, fine.
You don't even got to say that. You give Joe Burrow an offensive line in that Super Bowl, this offensive line in that Super Bowl, they win it. Simple as that.
I'm not
They
gonna
win.
disagree.
They win that game. And you want to call it
maybe
lucky?
not.
You want to call the Bengals run lucky? Look, I know Super Bowl
The team
hangover.
against
I said
touchdowns.
it
There-
included luck.
There is
which
such thing.
everything does.
There is such thing as a Super Bowl hangover.
Was the
There's
Rams
no doubt.
run luck?
This past year,
Yeah,
no, they had 3 comeback wins.
but that's what I'm trying to say. Like luck
The
to a
Bengals
degree.
had a
like,
comeback win
they-
also against the Titans.
they
and the
also
Chiefs.
played the Bucks, who were the defending Super Bowl champs. I guess they played the Chiefs. The Bengals did.
came back against the Titans.
Listen,
and
I'm
Chiefs,
talking.
though.
Listen, the Rams. I'm saying was not lucky. I
Yeah.
agree. They were not lucky.
I think their path was harder, especially because they were in a harder division too in the regular season.
Their path to a degree was more difficult.
We're talking
yes.
the NFC West
Yes,
compared
I'm
to
not
a
disagreeing.
beat up
I'm not-
AFC
I'm
North.
not
So
disagreeing.
the Rams,
How about-
the Rams comeback wins aren't lucky, but the Bengals ones are.
No, I never said
they're
their
not-
comeback wins were lucky.
Yes, I agree with that. I'm saying I believe that the Rams wins were not luck.
It wasn't the fact that they won because they're lucky. It's just the matchups they had. Like they had an easier path because their division was torn apart with injuries, and then they played a Raiders and Titans team they're playoff teams, but they're not like these over the top great teams. Like they didn't have to play like the team like the Bucks in the second round. The Bill, like if they played the Bills in the second round, they would have got tossed.
How do we know that? They beat the
I
team
know.
that beat that.
I understand.
Look, I understand what you're saying, but then again, you picked the Raiders and the Titans to beat the Bengals.
I did.
And the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So you went 0 for 3. I at least picked the Titans. I went 1 for 2, but I at least picked I at least picked the Bengals to beat the Titans.
I picked them to beat the Raiders. That was it. I did not see them beating the Chiefs. And listen,
no one
credit to
did.
them. They should have lost.
but you're right. You're right. I'll just use your point to go off what I'm gonna say. You're right. Luck is involved in everything,
Yes.
right? With that being said, this upcoming season, we all think Deshaun's going to get suspended at least 6 to 8 games. The Bengals start hot. The Browns don't. They're going to be ahead of them. I look at the Bengals and the Steelers. The Bengals are better than the Steelers.
Definitely.
I'm not thinking about it.
That's easy.
So based on that alone, I have the Bengals over the Browns and Steelers because we're not going to get a full season of Deshaun Watson. Versus the Ravens, I think the Bengals have a better roster than the Ravens. I think their offensive line now is better than the Ravens. I think their running back, Joe Mixon, is better than J.K. I like their receivers better than the Ravens. Ravens just got the tight end and Mark Andrews, and defensively, I think
Hollywood and Bateman too.
and defensive, it's not Jamar Chase.
It's obviously not, but you're throwing them away like they're terrible.
because
They're
compared to
significantly better than the Colts.
compared to these
You're a
guys,
clown, Joel.
compared to
Yes.
these guys, I'm
Well, yeah,
throwing them
they
away.
have arguably the
It's-
best duo in the
it's-
league.
Yeah, it's just when you're talking about Ravens to Bengals,
Yeah.
you just can't do it.
And then
Listen, I like the
defensively, they're
Ravens'
close.
weapons as well, but you can't.
Because of that, I mean, I've already seen Joe Burrow torch the Bengals twice last year.
Never seen Lamar torch the Bengals.
I seen it,
Okay.
but not these new look Bengals, not these who they Bengals. That's for sure. Joe Burrow's rookie season, he got blown out by the Bengals and the Steelers. Very next year, he came
The
back
Ravens,
and Ravens and the Steelers. Very next season, he came back and he said, "Watch this,"
Burrow's
and
a
he
dog.
cooked them. Joe Burrow is one of those top echelon quarterbacks, and in this NFL, in order to be the last team standing, you need an elite level quarterback, and Joe Burrow
Interesting.
can go up against any single quarterback in the NFL, and he can win you a
You
game.
heard they need an elite level guy at quarterback. Okay.
Yeah, you do. I mean, why would I say something different?
No, I'm just.
Why would I say something
I just
different?
wanted to highlight that. Go on.
If you're talking about Matt Ryan, I think Matt Ryan can play at that
I
level.
never said Matt Ryan.
You better not, Sam, because I know who he is.
Yeah, Matt Ryan can be Joe Burrow.
Matt Ryan is him.
Yeah,
Matt Ryan is him.
Matt Ryan's like Tim.
Doesn't it look like Matt Ryan played in the 60s in this picture right here?
But with that being said, I think if you want to say luck last year, you had the Ravens hurt, you had the Browns hurt, you had the Steelers with Big Ben. I mean, I think the Steelers, we're not going to be that high on the Steelers this year anyway. the Browns, they might not even have a starting level quarterback for half the season.
You just said Jacoby can win you some games.
He's a good backup, but if they were losing with Baker,
you just said they're playing the NFC South, bro. They could get it done.
No, yeah, I know, but I'm saying Jacoby, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like Baker's better than him. Even on a torn labrum, I think Baker's better than Jacoby Brissett. Sure. And the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, he's always an injury risk because of the way he plays.
First year getting hurt.
Even so, he's an injury risk.
You can't do that.
He's an injury risk.
He had 2 seasons didn't miss a game.
So Joe Burrow is an injury risk.
You can say that. I
don't want to say that.
I wouldn't be mad at you.
But I don't want to say that.
If you want to say that, you can. I mean, Joe Burrow, you can say he's an injury risk, but then again, he's getting sacked in the pocket. His injury came from his offensive line being trash. They fixed that offensive line. Lamar's injury is coming from him running into tacklers and taking big-time hits.
I want to say Lamar got hurt on a sack. Yeah, he hurt his ankle on a sack.
It's even worse. He's getting hit twice as much. You know what I'm saying? So
his offensive line was trash last season.
Luck is going to play a part in every single run.
Yes.
The one thing that worries me about the Bengals, I think offensively they did a great job. I think Hayden Hurst is just as good as CJ Uzomah. And he's not as good as a blocker, but I think he's a slightly better receiver.
He's still a good blocker because he played with Baltimore, and you have to be able to block.
He wasn't the main blocker there. It was Mark Andrews and Nick Boyle. He was like the third guy there. Defensively, that's where I get a little bit worried.
Agreed.
You know, I don't. Eli Apples, he's average. I like Awuzie. I like Hilton. I feel like they're missing one more corner. They have to address it.
Did they re-sign him yet or no?
Yeah, they franchise tagged him.
Smart.
I like that. I like the defensive line. I feel like they're like 2-3 pieces away on defense for me to really buy into them as a whole and to really put them in the upper echelon again. But offensively, I mean, we know they're there. Like they are one of the best offensive teams in football. Probably going to finish top 5 this upcoming season for sure.
Didn't they lose a couple guys in defensive line?
Ogunjobi.
Oh yeah, okay. Did they lose BJ Hill too? They re-signed him.
Yep.
So you have them. Do you think they're making the playoffs? I can't. Like this shouldn't be a thought.
No,
respectfully, they're not making the playoffs.
I think.
Come on,
they're gonna be close.
This is just one. Like I respect the hot take more than the next, as much as the next guy for sure. This is just one of those where
they're gonna be in the wild card race, and it's gonna be close.
Them winning the division is not out of the question.
It's not.
The Ravens.
They should be the favorites.
I like them.
Listen, you think Deshaun's the best quarterback in football.
Do.
If the Browns go 3-5, you don't think Deshaun could go on a run and they end up?
He could easily.
You know, yeah.
He could easily. But
I don't know. 3-5 though, that's a deficit.
My point being is you have the Ravens winning the division, correct?
Yeah, I'll see where the Deshaun ends up being. But if it's the 6-8 that I expect, I'll take the Ravens.
I just look at the Bengals. Yes, the defense does worry me, but offensively they got better, which is crazy.
Yeah, their line got better.
And the coaching staff is the same from last year too.
I just can't see how we look at a team that improved at their biggest need. Defensively, I do have my worries, but they're good enough to continue the path that they were on last season. The run that they went on in the playoffs, I don't know if they could sustain that for a full season. That's a little bit too much to ask of them. But offensively, Joe Burrow is going to continue to get better. Jamar Chase was 1,413 touchdowns, correct? T. Higgins, 1,000-yard receiver, first 2 seasons of his career, is going to continue to do that, continue to get better. Tyler Boyd is your number 3 option, is fantastic. Adding Hayden Hurst. I just can't see how you look at this team and think that they regress.
It's not more so that they regress. I just think that last year they got not lucky, but they had a 4th place schedule, and they had a division. I think this division, we have to project it to be healthier at the very least. I don't think all of the quarterbacks are going to get hurt.
I'll tell you this. I don't disagree with the 4th place schedule thing. However, you make it to the playoffs, regardless of that fact, regardless how you want to look at the Raiders. They had an impressive win against the Chargers. They were one of the hotter teams down the stretch of the season. They gave them an excellent game. Against Tennessee, they're the number 1 seed, regardless of how we may feel about them.
I think we agreed that they were the weakest number 1 seed we've seen in a very long time.
Okay, fine. You had a healthy AJ Brown. You had a healthy Julio Jones, who was solid in that game. You had Derrick Henry, who was coming back, was not Derrick Henry, but even still, Dante Foreman was.
Tannehill threw 3 picks, and they still almost won.
They did almost win, but regardless of that fact, Joe Burrow stepped up.
He did. This isn't a shit on Joe Burrow.
I'm just saying the team as a whole. Joe Burrow was clutch, had the clutchest throw of the game to Jamar Chase to shut it down.
For sure.
Now against the Chiefs, down double digits, 17 points, I believe, 17 or 18.
I don't know.
17.
To come back in Arrowhead, like certain things are lucky, yes. That playoff run, I can't look at it and think it was luck.
It might have been 19 points.
I'm not saying like their whole season was luck. It's just a matter that
I'm talking playoff run specifically. I don't think it was luck.
I think that the AFC got so much better this year in this past offseason that the Bengals, while they did get better, I look at other teams, kind of how we talked about who we just talked about. What was the last topic? Am I blanking?
The Colts.
Baker.
Yes.
Seattle?
I don't know where I was trying to go with that. Anyway,
That's all right.
I just think that other teams in the division got better. So, or in the conference in general, just got better. So while the Bengals did upgrade at their biggest weakness being offensive line, I still look at other teams who got better. Like, who are you taking next year? You think they have a better record, the Broncos or the Bengals?
Oof. That's tough. We're in a tough division.
You are.
I mean, who do you think's a better team? You're the one that's kind of low on the Bengals.
You know what?
Probably the Broncos.
I think the Broncos too, actually.
Okay, Chargers or Bengals?
Chargers probably.
Chiefs or Bengals?
Probably the Bengals, believe it
Really?
or not. Yes.
You want to put a bet on that?
Yeah, I would.
$20? Bet. What do you want? Regular season record or deep?
I mean, that's
playoffs?
that's
Okay,
fine.
okay.
All right, done.
I think the Chiefs are going to have a better record. So that's 3 teams already, and we could probably make the argument for the Raiders too. So that's 4. So now that's 1 division winner, 3 playoff teams, and now in your own division.
We don't necessarily know the Raiders are better.
I mean, the Raiders upgraded at arguably 2 of
They
their
did.
biggest
They did.
weaknesses, wide receiver and edge.
Would you say receiver was a weakness of there?
Yes.
To a degree.
I mean, they had Waller, who's, I mean, you could classify him as a receiver.
Dolphins
I don't
or
think.
Bengals?
Listen,
That's
I
close.
love the Dolphins. I love them. I don't know now if I could take them over the Bengals.
That's fair. But even still, we're looking at 4 teams in the AFC South, and we're still even thinking like, the Ravens are going to be right there. If the Browns could stay afloat and they get Deshaun back, they're going to be right there. So I understand they went to the Super Bowl and we think they upgraded everything, but that doesn't automatically put them in the playoffs or make them a favorite.
Like, they were super raw. Them at their rawest made the Super Bowl. They're only going to get better. We're talking about a top 5 talent in Joe Burrow.
I mean, if they were but that doesn't happen all the time. Just because you go to the Super Bowl, we look at all the. When's the last time you go back? Someone went back.
I'm not saying they're going back to back. I'm just saying, why am I expecting this team to regret? Like, yes, I guess a regression is if you don't go as far as you made it last season.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, because if they don't, if they win 2 playoff games going to the AFC Championship, I'm not saying they regress.
So you think the Ravens are a better team than the Bengals?
I'm picking the Ravens to win the division right now.
I can't see that right now. I can't. I'm looking at the Ravens pass rush also. It's not that good.
They need help on edge.
And with this
deep edge
Bengals
class.
offensive line, if you're giving Joe Burrow time to throw to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, it's going to be a light show. I don't care who you have in your secondary. There's no one in that division right now that is holding the Bengals to under 25 points.
The Ravens front 7 is bad.
It's not good.
It's a deep edge class.
It is, but even still, I don't know if you draft a difference maker in year 1 that's going to stop Joe Burrow in that offense.
Probably not, but you're going to get guys that could at least contribute.
The Browns right now are the team that I'm looking at that with Deshaun Watson, with the fact that their front 7 is solid, the fact that their secondary is solid, they could probably use another piece on the outside. That's a team that I look at that, all right, the Bengals really could struggle against this team. Outside of that, even still, I'm confident in the Bengals. Joe Burrow has the best arm in that division. He's the best. Oh, I'm lying. I'm sorry. Deshaun, when he's on the field, yes. He's by far got it. I'm thinking in the sense that he's not there. But, yes, you have to give the Browns that credit when Deshaun's on the field. But, again, that suspension is looming. Whether I think he's going to get suspended or not, the consensus is he's going to get suspended at least 6 games. So, that's enough for the Bengals to
have a sizable lead
for sure
to start the season off.
Yeah.
The Ravens scare me. That front 7 is not good, and their secondary. Yes, they added Williams. Marlon Humphrey is still really
all
good.
That injuries, whether
and Marcus Peters is coming back. But there's no one on that secondary, including Marlon Humphrey, including Marcus Peters, who is hurt, that's stopping Jamar.
All those injuries to Lamar, the secondary, the running backs.
I'm not saying. Listen,
8 games.
I'm not disagreeing that the Ravens will be better.
Great
I agree.
staff,
They're going to be a better team this year, but they're not going to be on the Bengals level.
You don't think they don't have a chance? They're not like. I mean,
there's always an injury away.
They're not on the same level, but they were 2 games away from the Bengals. They won 8 games. The Bengals won 10.
And the Bengals had the worst offensive line, the second worst offensive line.
And the Ravens had the most injuries in the NFL.
For sure.
They both have improved. I don't think we're expecting the Ravens to have the most injuries, and the Bengals got healthy. Or the Bengals upgrade their offensive line.
It's a fair point.
You know,
Fair
I don't
point.
think it's not going to shock me by any means if the Bengals go and win the division. But I just think I'd pick the Ravens right now. I think the rest of the AFC got better and healthier.
And it's also very dependent on Lamar taking a huge step as a passer as well.
I don't think he needs to take a huge step.
A good step.
He needs to take a step.
A good step.
But he was looking good last
He
year before
was.
he got
He
hurt.
looked damn good. And
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm a fan of Lamar's.
Yeah.
But in this NFL, you still need to strive as a quarterback in the sense of you need to hit your throws when your number's being called.
For sure.
And I think
he'll do
he
that.
does have those capabilities, but we need to see it on a consistent
Yes,
basis.
agreed.
I want to put an ice pack on my foot. You think that'd help the swelling?
No, actually.
It wouldn't.
Icing's out, apparently.
I've heard that too.
Heating's in.
Heating.
Correct.
So that's how you do it now?
Heating.
Why?
I feel like there's conflicting
Heating,
reports
yeah,
about that.
there is. There is.
What's the science behind
I
that?
couldn't tell you, to be honest with you. Heating just speeds up the process.
Wow. I was about to put like an ice pack on my foot.
Not a bad idea. The only thing that it just, I could sound stupid right now, but the ice just constricts all the blood vessels and it allows it to just dull the pain where it goes away. The swelling goes down, but when you need it again, it takes longer to heat up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's why you have to take longer the next time that you're working out to stretch it out.
Yeah, my foot is killing me right now.
I believe you. I believe you.
This is going to do it for episode 165 of the Pick a Side Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and on TikTok at Pick a Side Podcast, on Twitter at Pick a Side Pod. Thank you for listening and or watching, and we'll see you next time.